In front of him stood an ancient castle, shrouded in mystery, with an atmosphere of profound secrecy. Alone, he grasped his sword and confidently stepped into the castle. He wore a white cloak. A monstrous beast appeared, large in stature and with an angry face, but he calmly advanced. Then, it roared, its mouth opening wide as if to swallow him whole. At that moment, blue lights emerged from the sky, seemingly emanating from a certain area in the forest. And the blue circle grew larger and larger. He closed his eyes and said, "I wish," perhaps hoping for something. His face showed no clear emotion as he placed his hands on the ground to brace himself, gathering all his strength to prepare for the coming attack. His posture was full of confidence, as if he had already acquired immense power. "This ice will freeze the earth," he thought. It was a terrifying power, the only thing capable of fighting that monster. He looked up, his mouth gradually opening as if he was about to speak, embracing it. The battle was about to begin, and putting it to rest, he exclaimed, his eyes showing clear determination. It was time for him to attack the vile monster. The blue light emanated from a statue, a young girl. Her entire body was covered in white, symbolizing ice and snow, and it would become a reality. Everything on Earth would turn to ice, and that light had appeared from there. It seemed to engulf the entire surrounding space. He stood below the statue, raising his sword to the sky. Almost every part of the building was already frozen, and it was spreading throughout the surrounding space. The monster, seeing this, couldn't accept it and roared, expressing clear anger. The statue could move, and the girl gradually blew ice and snow at the monster, all under his direction. He took a step forward. The space around him was still warm, and light shone down from above. He raised his hand to feel it. His face grew somber, expression unclear, but he seemed to be pondering something. The surroundings were now covered in ice and snow. Korea's top magic family, the Shin family, a character was introduced. He was indeed very talented, capable of summoning ice and snow to freeze everything, even among the many geniuses in this family. I was known as an exceptional talent. Until that incident, the scene shifted to a cityscape with towering buildings rising up one after another. So, who was this character? A wealthy man stood before them, his hands in his pockets, his face showing clear suspicion. He said, "You understand," he was in conversation with someone. That person was third son of the prestigious Shin family, Shin Hyul, handsome, and replied, "Of course, father." Shin Hyul continued, "I will deliver results worthy of the Shin family name." His eyes showed a resolute and confident answer to his father. He would do something great. "I will graduate at the top of the Obelisk Academy, become the world's greatest mage, and lead the Shin family," a promise not to disappoint his father. He must have been very talented to speak so confidently. His father turned his back and said, "You have a talent that surpasses your brother's. No, that no one else can rival." He acknowledged his son's talent. "I look forward to it, my son. Reach the pinnacle of AI magic. Stand at the peak of the magical arts and prove yourself." He always looked forward to the day he would see his son develop, his face filled with confidence. "Yes, father." He held a blue stone in his hand. He had red eyes. "I will prove it without fail. To become the world's greatest mage, I vowed to surpass not only my brothers but also my father." The nation's top mage, for his family had been famous for a long time. 2 years have passed since then. Time passed quickly, and the scene returned to the school grounds, the prestigious Obelisk Academy of Magic. A middle-aged man, in formal attire, with a tired expression, held up a stack of papers and said, "Sophomores, gather up. Today is the practical exam. First up is Baek Se-hyuk. Just do as you usually do. Do not get nervous." The teacher called out the names of students to test. A gray-haired young man with a confident look said, "Is there any reason to be nervous?" He seemed very confident. Many students stood around him, curious about the techniques he had learned. "The bottom rank is already decided," he kept saying. Not worrying about anything. Shin Hyul, a loser who can't even use basic magic. How did he even make it to the second year? Everyone around him was probably very curious about him. How could it be possible? It seemed Shin Hyul had not yet revealed his power to everyone. Baek Se-hyuk slicked his hair back. "A worthless piece of trash who can't even use AI magic," with disdain. But Shin Hyul paid no mind. He stood calmly leaning against the wall. In today's world, mages are still rare and valuable. It was truly a magical world where magic still existed. "Let's start the practical." Baek Se-hyuk, without wasting time, he confidently stepped up to the screen in front of him. "Begin." Fireball. A red aura surrounded him. The official test began. He pointed a finger at the screen and the red mass instantly disappeared. Cleared the monster suppression test within the time limit. Baek Se-hyuk was not afraid of anything. Pass, easy as expected. They were no match for him. Modern magic has evolved drastically with the introduction of AI. Everything had changed. All modern mages have implanted AI chips in their bodies, allowing them to cast spells effortlessly without complex incantations. That was why he could win so easily. But I am unfit for it. He was quite special. He couldn't do that. Next, Shin began. His test officially began. Around him were monsters, and Shin closed his eyes to focus. First, gather the mana, the source of magic, into the heart. His eyes opened wide, and his hands pressed on the screen. Then, go through the 8 steps to form the magic formula. They were truly very strong. Not just one, but 2 were attacking him. He raised his hands to defend himself. Baek Se-hyuk laughed smugly. Ha! You call that magic? Everyone around him laughed at Shin magic. Shin slightly frowned. An outdated mage who can't even use AI in this day and age. It was truly pathetic. He couldn't do it right now. Know your place, magic, for someone unfit like you. Shin none of them believed he could do it. In front of Shin was a gap, with a crack in the middle. He knelt down, bracing himself with his hands. Monster suppression test time exceeded. Fail. He had lost as everyone had predicted. He couldn't do it. The atmosphere was filled only with laughter. I failed. His hand braced himself, hit the ground. However, it didn't bother him. He continued to smile, thinking, but at least my incantation speed has improved from before. He looked at his hands. The moment I was deemed unfit for AI, Father gave up his expectations of me. He even sent medicine to destroy the mana circle in my heart. However, I have no intention of giving up on my dreams. Nothing could stop him. The path I chose to break through is traditional magic, which is now obsolete. The downside is, I can only learn old magic through books. He couldn't use magic like everyone else. But that wasn't a reason for him to stop. Damn, wouldn't it be great if these old magic textbooks were in ebook format? He was in his room with a pile of books, angrily saying, it's all just theory. How can I practice? I am running out of space for all these books. All the space he had was used for books. Suddenly, he glanced at a book on the table. It was a red-covered book. The cover clearly depicted the magic of the book. Did I buy a book like this? He couldn't remember when he had gotten it, but it was strange how he could see it here now. Curious, he picked up the book and opened a page. Looking at the book in his hand, he said, it is pretty old, but it looks fancy and expensive. He flipped through each page. He stopped at a page filled with special characters, which looked very similar to hieroglyphs. What does it say? The handwriting is too bad to read. Raybel, Baitno? He laughed. Oh, it's been a while. What was Raybel Baitno? The first Grand Mage of humanity? He was a mysterious emperor. The first emperor of the Magus Empire of Batano. In his hand, he held a scepter shaped like a globe, and the creator of all magic. When I was young, I used to read about him a lot in biographies. He remembered his childhood memories. When he had read many documents, suddenly, he stopped, his face showing clear surprise. The book emitted a light, which made it difficult for him to open his eyes normally, and he had to squint. Immediately, he put the book down on the table, and a miracle occurred. The surrounding space was filled with golden light. He didn't seem to understand what was happening. This light. To the one who shares my constitution and can hear my voice, a strange sound emanated from the book, and everything seemed to be drawn into it. I, Raybel Baitanio, leave you this book. Was he about to appear right here? A man wearing a black cloak stood before him, holding the book in his hand. Shin was surprised by the events unfolding, and he wiped the sweat from his brow. The voice from the book, he wondered to himself. At that time, I did not know that to me, suddenly, many people were standing here. They were all students. Being unsuitable was, in fact, a stroke of luck. What did all this mean? The teacher continued to set conditions for the students. The students who failed the practical exams today will need to attend remedial classes. Was that the luck he had mentioned? Huh? Someone failed the practical exam? He thought, lost in thought. Haha, it's that guy. The one who even got rejected by AI. That was him. The only one going against everyone else. I, who could only endure, powerless. Had no idea I would be revived. Everything that happened was in the past. But now the blue light enveloped the entire space again, and he slowly raised his hand to shield his eyes. The next day, the sky was clear, a good sign for a fresh start. All the students gathered in the academy, sitting neatly, with the soft sounds of their conversations. Shin with a pensive look, sat by the window, seeming to enjoy his breakfast. A blonde-haired boy approached, his expression not much different, and asked, eating alone again today. He was holding a tray of food. And it seemed he wanted to join him. Hearing footsteps approach, he looked up. Yeah, did you come? As expected, he wanted to eat with him. Oh, that looks good too. Placing his tray on the table, he sat down. This guy's name is Ji Sunshin. He seemed to be a friendly person, his face beaming as he slowly brought food to his mouth. Actually, even though he looks a bit dumb, he is in the top 10 at the academy and became a third circle magician at 18. You couldn't judge a book by its cover. He was truly talented but never arrogant. He is actually quite skilled. Ji Sunshin leaned forward. If you are not eating, give it to me. He wanted to eat Shin Hyul's food while he was lost in thought. Just eat yours. He replied, annoyed, and he is the only guy I can really call a friend in this shitty school life. He could only talk to him. His eyes looked up, lost in thought. He continued, if there is anyone bullying you, just let me know. I will deal with them. He was ready to help him when needed. He avoided the question. Nah, I'm good. I found a weird book yesterday. It was that mysterious book again, Wing Hang, original book, a strange book where everything after page 3 is blank. He was still very curious about the book. It was always on his mind. He continued eating his meal, saying, oh, it is a book about Rebel Neo. I think the other kids mess with it. When I opened it, it even shone, and I heard voices. Ji Sunshin stopped eating. You say it even used magic. That is some serious stuff. So what is it about? When he heard the book could produce sounds, Ji Sunshin was truly surprised. Shin Hyul smiled. It is about him leaving his magic to his successor, or something like that. Apparently, if you do not have the same constitution as him, you cannot even open the book. Did that mean Shin Hyul was compatible with him? Ji Sunshin seemed excited and laughed. Oh, sounds interesting. Can I try opening it too? Everyone wanted to try magical things. He paused for a moment. Oh, and the last page says you need to die first. What? When he read the last page, he stopped. How could that be? Sacrificing one's life was very dangerous. Not the heart, but create a mana circle in your brain. All rituals required high concentration and a lot of sacrifice. Ji Sunshin reacted strongly. That's no joke, a mana circle in your brain. It is telling me to die. Hey, let's check the book first. Soon, it was evening. Both of them were still at school. Shin Hyul led him to his room. They were both very curious about the book's magic. It says you cannot open it unless you have the same constitution as Rebel Neo. Let's try opening it. Ji Sunshin strained with all his might to open the book, his arms nearly popping out, but he didn't succeed. He couldn't open it. It won't open, despite spending a lot of time. It was all in vain. Shin Hyul's statement was true. It's not budging. Is this maybe a locking spell? I don't know. Forget it. I am done with this. Then I will go. Good night. Nothing could be resolved because Ji Sunshin couldn't open the book. Ji Sunshin left the room. It was late, so he decided to go to sleep. Shin Hyul stood there, not knowing what to do. Once again, he opened the book. It was filled with strange characters, none of which he understood. For others, it was very difficult, but he opened them very carefully. It is opening so easily, as if no force was needed. The letters immediately emitted light. This page was blank. It was all very confusing. In the mystical space, a man wearing a black cloak appeared again. To my successor, if my guess is right, you are probably using a mana circle in your heart to cast magic. The night made the space even more mystical and strange. To ordinary people, that is just normal. He grew more tense, but for you and me, it was all terrifying. It is not the right way. Once again, the book floated into the air. What? He didn't understand any of the events. If you accept my will and are prepared to be my disciple, destroy the mana circle in your heart. Mysterious words from the book echoed, compelling him to participate, and then a golden light engulfed the entire space. It was over his head, and create a mana circle in your brain. Open this again. It urged him to open the book. It fell to the ground. He was stunned, not understanding anything that had just happened. Everything had been too fast. What a bad joke. It is still forcing me to create a mana circle in my brain. Every time he touched the book, it was the same. Mana, the source of magic, is toxic to the brain. If mana enters the brain, the mind collapses. And in the worst case, it can lead to brain death. All of it was too much for him to understand because he was the only one facing these things alone. It was really making his head hurt. This clearly means it is telling me to die quickly. Just for that reason, he had to die. That was unreasonable. But why was he the only one chosen? Was it because he was the only one who read books instead of learning from magic? Not wanting to waste time thinking but not finding a reasonable answer, he decided to sleep. Who would do something like that? The book remained on the table. A new day had begun. The sun's rays gradually appeared on the trees. Student Shin Hyul, what is going on? It was early morning, and he had already met his teacher. What was going to happen? Seizing the opportunity, he handed the book to the professor. Can you check this book just once? The professor was confused. The book. He reached out to take the book. Is it written in ancient script? He asked, because no student would hand him an ordinary book to look at, especially so early in the morning. His face grew pensive. One hand held the book, and the other prepared to open it. It does feel like it is quite old. So, what do you want me to check about the book? He asked again. He replied, slightly nervous. Just open it for me. And, can you check if it is sealed by magic? He wanted to make sure if the book was unusual. The professor asked, puzzled. Sealed. He calmly replied, yeah. There is a weird rumor going around among the students lately. He stated, focusing on rumors is not good for your studies. I will check it. But you should focus on your academics. Let me concentrate for a moment. He just wanted him to focus on his studies and not be distracted by anything. If one is distracted, one cannot do anything properly. He finished speaking and was about to open the book. His face grew grave. He couldn't seem to open it, so he immediately handed it back. There is no trace of magic in this book. Everything was normal. Forget about the rumors and focus on your studies. He didn't forget to remind Shin to focus on studying. He reached out and took the book. Thank you. I was hoping for even the slightest possibility. Even Sunshin, who has high magic power, and the teacher could not open this book. Then, thus, the curse had officially begun. He smiled and took the book. There is a possibility it could be real. So all the rumors were true. It was dark, and now only he and the book were in the room. He held a plastic bag with 3 pills. This medicine my father sent me. He remembered the item his father had given him. If I take this, the mana circle in my heart will be destroyed. He really didn't want to get involved in this. It was his father's advice again. Forget magic and focus on magic theory. Yes, everyone didn't want him involved in magic. He slowly lowered his gaze. I am not giving up on magic. The atmosphere grew tense. Do not be scared. Looking at his trembling hands, he reassured himself. The other hand clenched, holding the 3 pills. Anyway, my life was already on the edge. So, he had nothing left to regret. He raised his hand to his mouth, swallowed the pills. His action decisive. I am going to die today. Unfortunately. He choked on the pill. It hurts. It was incredibly painful. He couldn't bear it. He slowly fell to his knees. The mana circle linked to my heart is breaking apart. It made him feel incredibly uncomfortable, unable to breathe. That circle continued to grow. This pain, it is the death of a magician. It felt like something was piercing through his body. From now on, it is a forbidden challenge. Circulate mana through the brain. It flickered through his mind. The book remained still. With no changes, but only he could feel it. Until now, I am living again, as a magician. As soon as he circulated mana through his brain, the pain faded. It was a pain that felt like it would kill me. It was incredibly agonizing. So, is this what death feels like? Everything was gradually leading him to death. He couldn't feel anything from the surrounding environment. It felt like someone was placing their hands on his ears, a vague sensation. Can you hear me, future generations? It was the voice from the book, the voice of mana. The surrounding space became increasingly blurred, light and darkness, sky and earth. All of life surrounded him. The spirits of mana dance and whisper, coexisting with mana. His consciousness was gradually being awakened. I hear the voice, but he could still feel the power. It is laughing, singing, as if blessing me. He jolted awake, gradually regaining his consciousness. Am I alive? He stared blankly at his hands. He hadn't died. He glanced over and saw the book was still open. There are letters on the blank page. He immediately grabbed the open book. Searching for answers. Indeed, the voice is becoming clearer. That illusory sound kept going. Immediately, the voice appeared again. Congratulations, you have taken the first step. He was stunned, so that light and vague sensation were caused by the book. He couldn't remain silent for long. The voice echoed again. It was a man wearing a black cloak, holding the book. Idrid, that is the name of this book. From this moment on, your legend begins, through this book of Idrid. In the book, a crude drawing appeared, depicting a person in a state of vagueness, as if dying and coming back to life. Through Idrid, I dedicate all of my magic. He was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. What was all the power he had? The book continued to emit a strange sound. I leave all my magic to you. He gained all that with just one move. The image of the man in the black cloak was lifting him into the blurred space. To those who come after, no. Should I call you this now, my disciple? His face was full of tears. A few days later, the surrounding scenery hadn't changed much. Back in the classroom, all the students were diligently listening to the lecture. He was still sitting, looking at the book, smiling strangely. Another new entry has been added. Who knew learning magic could be this fun? It didn't affect his life much, so he found it all very normal. Idrid holds a wealth of knowledge, a source of knowledge he had never known before. The book was open to the section he had completed a few days ago. There wasn't much changed. To begin with, Mana has a will of its own. In that space, his eyes seemed closed, but his hands could still move. There was a magic circle below him, for most people below him. When Mana enters the brain, the two wills clash, destroying the brain. It would make their bodies feel uncomfortable and almost cut off from life. This is why Mana acts as a toxin in the brain, but I am different. His reactions were mostly normal, nothing alarming. The will of the brain blocks the will of Mana. It was terrifying. In other words, it does not get destroyed. The brain does not accept the will of Mana. They were all opposites. The more he thought, the more his head hurt. He touched the back of his neck. That is why I had a natural resistance to AI chips that interfere with brain function. Because of that, he couldn't perform normal magic like others. He continued to hold the book, thinking non-stop, and then, everyone, the professor spoke. You all know that there is a midterm evaluation for second years, right? He was referring to the upcoming exam that everyone had to face. This midterm will have a new rule added. Holding the book in his hand, he announced, a new rule. All the students were confused. Wasn't it just about doing what they had learned? Starting this year, students who do not meet the standard, his face was full of mystery, will be expelled. It was a very stressful rule. This was personally proposed by the head of the Shin family. It was his father. Shin Hyul was stunned. All the students were confused by this new rule. Some of them felt very stressed. The white-haired boy said, "It is time to get rid of the defective ones." The professor didn't seem stressed, but rather, he laughed triumphantly. He confirmed, "It seems there is a borderline student in my class." This made him even more confident. Shin Hyul rested his chin on his hand, thinking, "Father." His father had made this decision. Time passed, and it was evening. On the street, there was a gloomy atmosphere. He stopped at a shop called Our Training Center and thought, the rental simulation training center in the city is way too expensive. To have a successful training session, one needed to spend a lot of money. He checked the prices on his phone. This place cost 200,000 won per hour. Right, even this price feels heavy now. A price that made his head hurt. He still decided to go inside. Someone was waiting inside. She was a staff member. "Welcome." He got straight to the point. "1 hour, please," she continued. "Are you going alone?" "Yes," he answered. After receiving the information, she handed him a black card. "Then please use room 14. Instructions for the hologram device." He reached out and took the card. "I already know how to use it." It seemed the saleswoman knew him. She put her hand on her chin and thought, "That guy, isn't he Shin Hyul from the Shin family? A son of nobles labeled as unfit for AI, how unlucky." He reached the room where he could train, initiating training simulation. He changed into comfortable clothes for training, warming up his wrists. Wolf Challenge Quest. Immediately, many monsters appeared. They were all blue and looked very dangerous. They growled, getting into attack positions. He also got into position, his hand out in front. His legs shoulder-width apart to keep his balance. It may be a low-rank monster, but taking on 10 of them at once is not easy, with little energy but a large number of them. He was startled when he heard a voice from the air. He listened carefully. "My disciple. Do not be surprised by something of this level," the voice continued. "You still have a long way to go." The surprise hadn't faded before he realized the truth. He hadn't really achieved anything great. This was just a small beginning. The Infinity Circle is merely the foundation of Bataneo-style magic. A man appeared right behind him, placing his hand on his head. "It is about controlling magic," he continued, "with the images formed in your mind. This is the first book of Bataneo-style magic. Your journey has just begun." The will of the heart. The person seemed to be imparting to him all that he could, boosting his confidence. This was the first step of Bataneo-style magic. After an hour of training, he left the training center. "Thank you, please come again." The staff member immediately went to room 14 to clean and go home. "Ha, I just want to go home. Now that I think about it, I wonder how the fallen genius used to train," he smirked, reaching for the button to check. His eyes lit up, then paused. Something terrifying was happening. Shin Hyul Wolf Challenge, 6 minutes 37 seconds. This is international level. He couldn't believe the result before his eyes. How could someone considered the weakest be able to achieve this? How is it possible for an unfit person to set a record like this? The staff member kicked the machine. "This damn hunk of junk, it's broken again." Under the mysterious light of the night, Shin Hyul smiled knowingly, still holding the book in his hand, and went home. This was the beginning of a legend. For him, that start was truly fortunate. Certainly, in the next exam, everyone would be surprised by his results. The power he could now wield was water, infinity circle. When forming the first circle, Same, it was a real struggle. It wasn't a dream, it was real. The records in the Book of Idrad. The reason it all started was because of this mysterious book, were entirely different from the magic I had learned up until now. In the time he spent reading, he realized it was completely different. The other books were just mere theories, impossible to practice, but this book brought unexpected results. Even from the first few pages, mana is your arms and legs, your heart and mind, move as you wish, the enchanting words in the book. It claimed that only this book could make his life much better, but, strangely, the book only opened to the page where his soul and body floated, like the first few times. What does that even mean? To find enlightenment with such vague words, he rested his chin on his hand, focusing, because the book only stopped at that page, and not another. It is like there is a thought hidden behind a transparent curtain, as if I could grasp something but I cannot. In magic studies, they called this the Wall of Enlightenment. This had been true in every era. It gave people a vague, unpredictable feeling. No one could escape that sense of ambiguity. It was as if someone was covering their eyes during the process, preventing the practitioner from seeing, I decide, for now. To focus on circulating mana through my entire body, as written in the Book of Idrad, his entire body was covered in a blue energy. His job was just to sit there and breathe. His mind would work. Is this really enough? He was increasingly confused. But he still tried. Time passed, and now it was morning. By the time I regained my focus, I had been circulating mana for 10 hours. Normally, it would be exhausting enough to make him lose consciousness, but strangely, it didn't feel that way. His body felt like it was covered with a new source of energy, an overflowing source of energy. After studying, he didn't feel tired. He walked to school, his face expressionless. Sunshin, with a confident, calm smile, waved to Shin Hyul. Good morning, Hyul. Seeing that he didn't respond, he ran up and lightly touched his back. Hey, why do you look drained? Again. Are you okay? Always so strong, but, ugh, that touch made him lose his balance. In his mind, he thought, being constantly aware of mana circulation is not easy. I want to get used to this new mana circle quickly, to use it skillfully, quickly. Everything had to be quick because he was about to take his midterm exam, and the rules this time were much harder. He also didn't want to put in so much effort and time only to fail and not want to disappoint his father. When I achieved the second circle at 12 years old, they called me a prodigy. And my father had high hopes for me. He had been successful since childhood, so it was inevitable that his family, especially his father, would have high expectations. Now, I can only manage to form a first circle in the mana circle of my brain. What is the best way forward? Breaking the wall of enlightenment is essential to advancing in magic. Once he overcame that, he could continue the remaining steps. This was what my father said to me when he still had expectations for me as a child. His father was a very serious man, and he had seen that Hyul would make the family proud. Perfection is just a chain. It could make people risk everything to achieve results. Perfection is, he was really looking forward to it. A lie born from human arrogance. Perfection is a lie that had caused so many unnecessary conflicts. He himself was also someone who looked forward to it. But, no one was completely perfect. The perfect ones were liars. He still practiced diligently every day, carefully reading all the books. He was surrounded by them. I feel it. He closed his eyes to feel. Mana is my arms and legs. Just like the mysterious man had said, my heart and mind, move as you wish. Everything he wanted he would have. It meant he had 2 magic circles, imperfect, a free imagination, that is what. Instant spellcasting that does not even need an incantation. He smiled triumphantly. He had already achieved it. AI magic uses shortened incantations to activate spells. They all processed information and pressed buttons on electronic devices. That method of casting has consistency. But the approach recorded by Baitna is about freeing the thoughts of one. A spell that can even change its shape freely. He could alternate between different spells and use both techniques at the same time. A spell that ignores the algorithmic structure of magic formulas. He smiled triumphantly at his results. He would surely pass this exam. Though I am still only at the first circle, it is pretty exhausting physically. I cannot believe I can use such impossible magic. In such a short time, he was able to achieve his desired results. This book was truly amazing. I am breaking past the wall of enlightenment, reaching toward greater heights. From simple things, he had now regained his form. Another day passed, and back at school. The professor came to his room. Shin Hyul, you have a visitor. Follow me. He needed to go out to meet someone. Reading, he immediately looked up. A visitor. He stood up and followed the professor. Yes, your father is here to see you. It was his beloved father. It seemed there was something to discuss. My father, what was he doing here? They reached the waiting room. His father hadn't changed much. He still appeared in his familiar cloak and stance. Come in, I brought Yahello, the professor announced. Hearing that, he quickly glanced over. It has been a while, father. His face showed no clear emotion. The professor left the space for the two to talk. I will be going now. Now, only the two of them were in the room. To avoid wasting time, Yahello's father mentioned. Seeing that you were attending school, he continued, it seems you have not taken the medicine I sent. It was the blue pills he had sent. Yes, but recently, he replied, I have made progress in my magic. He had risked everything when making such a bold decision. He was very serious. His father closed his eyes. Progress, still chasing a hopeless dream, I see. He completely didn't believe it, unlike his son. Yes, I am determined. He still didn't want to give up halfway, to become a grand magician who leads this era. His father's eyes widened, not believing what he had heard. His eyes remained resolute, as if nothing could shake him. Yahello, he calmly called his son's name. You have already wasted a year. It is time to face reality. There was no more time to wait. His father also didn't want the family to have a bad name for many years. No matter how hard you work now, or what you accomplish in the future, he continued. Yahello sat there listening. As long as you reject AI magic, you will never become a proper magician. To his father, only AI magic could lead to success. That was why he wanted to come here today to meet him. Still, you have a unique talent. If you give up on pointless ideals and study magic theory properly, even as a misfit, you can make sure of your talent. He really wanted to advise him to do as the Academy taught instead of following some mysterious book. As I mentioned before, I will not give up on magic. He resolutely replied. He believed in himself instead of the advice. The story begins one morning at school. A one-on-one duel was about to take place. I heard even the magic tower is coming. That is amazing, really. At this time, all the students were buzzing with excitement. Most of them were discussing seriously, and no one could escape their worries. The whole school was bustling about the midterm evaluation presentation. If the Magic Tower participated, the event would surely attract the media. Shin quietly thought, his mood a bit different from others. The Magic Tower, an organization that gathered the 12 most powerful mages in the world, possessed power equal to a nation. Every student at this academy yearned to join the tower. The Magic Tower was a gathering place for those with special abilities, unlike ordinary people. To set foot there was the greatest dream of anyone here. Hey, defect, as Yahello was thinking. A loud voice suddenly rang out from behind. How is your condition? A group of arrogant students, led by a boy wearing a white cloak, approached with disdain. Yahello just glanced at them and turned away, clearly uninterested in the conversation. The one who had spoken was Sahuk, a second-year student famous for winning the previous tournament, the first match of the midterm evaluation. I heard I am your opponent, although the two didn't like each other. Sahuk brought up the upcoming match. You know you were screwed, right? His smug face seemed to firmly confirm that. I will get proper revenge for what happened 5 years ago. 5 years ago, in the final of the Youth Magic Tournament. Yahello had defeated Sahuk when he used 2 magic circles at once, and Sahuk had suffered a crushing defeat. This guy lost miserably to me, the winner, Shin Yahello, even so. With the title of the unfit mage that the world had given Yahello. Things were different now. Didn't he say that everyone who does not meet the standard in this midterm evaluation, Sahuk mocked, as if to say Yahello didn't even have the ability to perform the simplest magic. You were all loud like this 5 years ago. And you lost miserably. Yahello smiled, provoking him. Damn you. Sahuk gritted his teeth, so angry that he raised his hand to grab Yahello's collar, but couldn't do anything more, living down in the dirt. You probably wouldn't understand, but even a fall can only happen to someone who was once on top. Yahello brushed Sahuk's hand away, adjusted his collar, and left a final, challenging remark. And once a genius, always a genius. I will make sure you remember that. He turned and walked away, ignoring Sahuk's seething anger. The next day, the whole school was buzzing with preparations for the first match of the midterm exam. Defect, did you like the article I wrote? Sahuk appeared. His voice full of sarcasm. I can't stop laughing just thinking about how ridiculous I will look when you lose without casting a single spell. Yahello smiled. I think the one losing might actually be you. What? Is he crazy? Sahuk couldn't believe it, his eyes full of suspicion as he looked at his opponent. Thank you for playing into my hands. Yahello lowered his center of gravity. Ready to start the match, but you don't like me, do you? I don't care at all about a nobody like you, he lightly replied, completely unconcerned by Sahuk's provocation. So I will make it quick. Don't hold it against me. I circle. Yahello raised his finger, summoning a magic circle. I will beat you with just a single eye circle spell, he declared confidently, preparing for a victory that was surely his. That was the beginning of the mage. The atmosphere at the Obelisk Academy arena was now truly vibrant. All the students were eagerly awaiting this moment. Everyone was guessing who would be the winner. I will beat you. Using just first circle magic, Yahello raised his hand, pointing directly forward with a determined look, as if nothing could make him lose. The audience grew even more excited, anticipating the power that Yahello was about to unleash. You, Bexahuk gritted his teeth, trying to control his anger. You lowlife, how dare a piece of trash like you mock me? But immediately, he regained his composure, coldly looking at his opponent with obvious disdain. The referee blew the whistle, signaling the start of the match. Obelisk Academy second-year midterm exam. First match. Begin. The official exam had begun. Could Yahello overcome this challenge? Yahello smiled confidently, as if he had victory in his hands. No one else but himself. Die, you piece of trash. Immediately, Bexahuk launched his first attack, his face full of focus, hoping to take down his opponent. A blue line appeared in Bexahuk's eyes. He had used all his current strength. Almost maniacally, Bexahuk charged straight towards Yahello with unexpected speed. Bexahuk's specialized magic. Explosion. Behind Bexahuk, something seemed to control his movements. Perhaps it was an electronic device, a level 3 spell. Explosion, he yelled, heading towards his target. Yahello's eyes seemed to say it all, full of confidence. Immediately, Bexahuk engulfed the entire arena in a fiery red light. The audience clapped and cheered, celebrating his victory. People whispered and recorded videos. Ha! That's what you get for acting cocky, you fool, Bexahuk smirked, provoking Yahello. Suddenly, his eyes stopped. No, it cannot be. Not a scratch. Yahello reappeared, full of confidence, as if he had just successfully performed a technique. Then try this one. Bexahuk couldn't believe his eyes and decided to try again. He continuously unleashed powerful waves of fire towards Yahello. Water. Yahello simply smiled and counterattacked. The fire was immediately extinguished by the water. What? My specialty spell. Explosion. Bexahuk was stunned, unable to speak. How could someone like Yahello block such a powerful spell? Block so easily? Yahello smiled confidently. This is strange, he said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Yes. Even if it is just a first circle spell, to cast it instantly, the audience once again erupted in excitement. Why would you reschedule everything with the Blue Tower just to watch this student match? A short-haired woman, dressed stylishly, asked. She exuded an elegant aura, talking to a man. Do you know something about Yahello's magic? She asked. No. He couldn't explain how Yahello made such a spell work so successfully, the man replied. I only read an article about the Prodigy making a comeback. I came out of curiosity. Yahello confidently looked at his opponent and motioned for him to continue attacking. Explaining, so it was just by chance, the secretary asked. Ha, even so, if it is known that the Blue Tower leader, an 8th circle mage, came here to watch a student match, there will be a huge uproar. The man adjusted his suit, seeming to notice that Yahello had successfully attracted his attention. Ha ha ha, I know that well. He is Kim Kangan, master of the Blue Tower and an 8th circle mage, a very skilled man, but not arrogant. That is why I'm using the VIP room. They stood in a room where they could watch the match without leaving their seats. He was completely focused. She smiled smugly. Oh, you are here too, it seems. It seemed he had met someone very familiar. The sky turned gloomy. Yahello sighed. What the hell is going on? He blocked my 3rd circle explosion with just a first circle water spell. Bexahuk was confused, panicked, and didn't understand what was happening. Meanwhile, Yahello resolved the situation simply, with almost no effort, and his casting speed. It's abnormally fast. The more Bexahuk noticed, the more he became afraid. What? Curious about my casting speed? Yahello asked competitively. Shut up. Bexahuk frantically charged towards Yahello. Just die already. He attacked again. Suddenly, rings of fire appeared, turning the area into a fiery ocean, seemingly hot enough to burn everything. Hey, idiot. I could tell from the moment you started showing off with just a first circle spell. How pathetic. After attacking, Bexahuk was manic, believing that his opponent couldn't resist. Where does trash like you think you are going? Yahello calmly pointed his finger forward. Immediately, the fire almost completely disappeared. What? Bexahuk was stunned? When did he cast Wind Spear? He couldn't believe it, and my attacks are not even leaving a scratch on him. Why is he not affected at all? With just one spell, Yahello had blocked everything. Ha, really? You think you will beat me with just a first circle spell? Baek Sahuk became uncontrollable, not wanting to accept defeat. Yeah, obviously, Hyul replied confidently, as water reappeared around him. The gentle blue light seemed to engulf the entire area. Grr. Baek Sahuk was angry, losing all his strength to resist. He smiled helplessly. What the hell are you doing? Don't get cocky just because your casting speed got a bit faster. The sky turned clear again as if nothing had happened. You piece of Baek Sahuk yelled, unable to accept the fact that he had lost. Shin Hyul, you! He angrily screamed. When did he cast Wind Spear behind me? Hyul didn't waste much effort, simply raising a finger. You piece of... What the hell did you do? Hyul, the winner, smiled confidently. What, you still don't get it? Want me to show you again? Hyul replied confidently, as if the result had been predetermined. Do you understand what is happening? It seemed he was very successful in attacking his opponent, so nothing could stop him. Shall I show you again? Would he give up or continue to do meaningless things? After saying that, a bird immediately appeared in his hand, flying straight into the sky without hesitation. The bird immediately flew straight toward where Baek was standing. What? What is this? Is that really a wind spear? A wind spear should not have a double shot property. It was unfortunate for him to face everything that was happening one by one. The odds of losing were very high. Right, it should not. He still kept a very calm face as if nothing had happened. But I can do it. Try to block this. This time, it is 4. Confidently, he stood there, pointing at his opponent. It seemed he had won from the very first moments of the battle. That power still existed and moved towards the opponent very quickly. He used all his current strength to resist. TSK, barrier. It was a very strong power, even if it is just a first circle spell, as long as I block well. From the first moments of the fight, it was easy to tell who was the winner. But he did not give up because of that, continuing to resist with all his might. One of the wind spears is coming at me from a bent trajectory. They came with great speed and magic, chasing him as if he was flying. Thinking is fine, but are you sure you want to stand there looking dazed? He said confidently, in a voice full of challenge to his opponent. Hadn't Baek been full of confidence yesterday? The match has only just begun. That's right. Everything had just started a few minutes ago, not letting his opponent quickly recover. He immediately attacked from now on. Damn it, this bastard, I just need to move out of the wind spear's range and create some distance. Everything came so rapidly. For him, he would be defeated in the next few minutes. Magic power and range are somewhat limited. The distance between the two grew farther, and it was almost impossible to do anything right now. There was a circle around Hyul's entire standing area. If I create enough distance, that pesky, unpredictable attack will not reach me. That's right. But would he be able to do it now? Well, that is a good decision. Hyul still said nothing, smiling with confidence and arrogance, agreeing with his opponent's opinion. In that case, he raised his hand, pointing straight ahead. The blue light appeared again with unpredictable speed. What? He was surprised once again by the technique he was using. It was very fast. Oh, how unfortunate. A large bird, almost the size of the stadium, flew towards where Baek was standing. Ah, he was brutally attacked. Oh. Not only does he cast spells instantly, even the professor was very surprised by his actions. How could a student perform it so skillfully? But the trajectory also changes and merges in midair. What kind of magic is that? He was still wondering how he could quickly combine the two types together. The middle-aged man. Lord Shin In-hyuk was his father, the head of the renowned Madoshin family, and an 8th circle mage, Shin In-hyuk, a talented man who had almost restored the family's reputation through generations. It was because of him that the family existed today. That is right, the magic of Hyul is clearly disregarding the rules of open-source magic. The secretary standing next to him agreed. He was truly a very talented person. Open-source magic. This was a fire that the performers were truly talented at. For example, reverse cutter. All resources were presented as text information. They appeared on the screen. If the target is beyond 38 meters, the spell cannot reach them, and if the trajectory is altered, it cannot be altered again. They all carried a very strong power. No one could resist that power. The creator was very knowledgeable and talented, able to attack opponents from a great distance. In other words, open-source magic only works according to its defined effects. That's right, that was how they actually worked. This is why modern mage duels resemble mental games, where each person tries to predict the moves of the other with known spells, and reacting flexibly is the key to victory. They used different non-smart devices to conduct a contest or test. The opponent was surrounded by the circles they created in the air at a 90-degree angle, like a game skill, but bait-no-style magic. That's right. Shin Hyul had reproduced those terrifying skills once again. It ignores the limitations of open-source modern magic. their attack power was very strong, stronger than anything one could endure. Therefore, those who knew it would easily win. Half. Am I really struggling against just a first circle spell? While he had only created one and had been defeated almost to death by Yahello, attacking continuously, only then did he fall to the ground, looking up with a face full of anger. You are underestimating first circle spells too much. Sahuk, he stood confidently, his hand in his pocket, saying, even if you exhaust yourself using third circle spells, even though he could attack with 3 fire circles, he couldn't defeat Yahello. All it takes to kill someone is a single pen. Sitting down opposite his opponent, he still had the power on his hand, proving to his opponent that he was not useless but could kill with something simple. What does that even mean? He vaguely searched for an answer. A first circle water spell, with just a simple circle of water, he could resist other powers, especially fire. The same applies to magic. A grand spell is not necessary to end a life. Gah! Instantly, it all went into his mouth. Cough. He couldn't stop coughing. The battle uniforms of the academy are protected by a safety barrier spell. Safety zone. Everything he did was very simple, but the opponent still didn't die but still lost. But right now, it does not seem to be doing you any good. He had almost won. Just like you. He lay down coughing continuously. The entire audience was very agitated. He stood up straight, his hands slightly bent, the look of a winner. Instructor, I think the result is pretty clear, and the winner was only him. Shall we continue? The referee blew a long whistle. Match over. The winner is Shin. The entire audience seemed to cheer. Everyone was surprised by the current result. No one believed he would win in those moments. The support staff took the defeated competitor down. Perhaps he would be expelled. He also went down another way, still holding his hand tightly. It has been a while. Exactly. He had proven it. This feeling, the feeling of receiving an award in front of everyone, was great. It was as if he had come back to life with that feeling. Returning as a mage once again, clenching his fist, he smiled confidently. Both people in the VIP room went out. The return of the Prodigy. He had witnessed the entire course of the match. He believed he was truly very talented. Interesting. He would surely be very curious about him. His eyes lit up. I want to know more about him. That's right. Hey, Shin. You won. Huh? That is amazing. The person who always accompanied him was happy that he had won. Junho, what kind of training did you do on the side? Your magic was incredible. He ran over and put his arm around his opponent, asking. The wind spears moved here and there, and the spells merged and unfolded. He was also excited to describe his fight. He stood there, smiling. Do you want to know? That's right. Everyone was very curious. Of course. Without thinking long, he answered immediately. Well, that magic is, he slowly answered, a secret. Oh no, he didn't say it. It was because of the book that had helped him. Junho, did you see this? He immediately asked Junho. See what? He was confused, not knowing what his friend was asking. While Yahello was still focused on his phone, it was a recent article, mentioning the magic he had used in the recent exam. The interview I did right after the match is already out. Aren't you curious about my magic? He wondered, asking his friend if he was also curious about it. What exactly is the instant cast magic that Yahello showed us? All the reporters and journalists were surrounding him. How did you cast magic instantly? The questions kept coming, but he was not afraid or worried. He calmly paid attention to the nearby cameras. Are you referring to the way you altered or combined the wind trajectory of the spear? Everyone was wondering how a student who knew nothing about magic could perform such extraordinary things. Whether he had some hidden ability or whether he could learn it here, as they had been lost for many years. I will answer that question for you. All the cameras were pointed at him. Suddenly, a voice rose from somewhere. A man wearing a blue coat appeared. He was someone with a high understanding of magic. His eyes grew somber, and his face wary. He must have been thinking about how this man could see the method that helped him succeed so quickly. The Lord of the Blue Tower, the Ice Demon King. Kim Kangan, was that him? He seemed to like blue. He was wearing blue all over. Yahello, I watched your recent match with great interest. He expressed his enjoyment immediately after meeting him. I believe that you used the fourth circle spell, memorize. He quickly walked towards him, putting his hand on his shoulder, as if they were very close. Memorize. Everyone was wondering, what exactly was that? Without keeping everyone in suspense, he immediately demonstrated. A flame appeared in his hand, and everyone seemed to get excited. Oh, it is a spell that allows you to prepare magic in advance and cast it instantly when needed. With memorize, instant magic casting is possible. Then, why is not such a useful spell widely used? He confidently explained how the circle worked. Using only the mind to create it without using any effort. Well, memorize has its drawbacks. It can only store spells 3 circles below the level of the user. He winked. This statement proved that Hyul was perfect. He could do it all by himself. So, Hyul, was I correct? He asked. Yes, that is right, Hyul confidently replied. It seemed he was a man with a very high understanding. I was wondering how to explain Baitno-style magic, and you provided just the help I needed. He looked at him and laughed. Both of them laughed as if they had known each other from before. That means that the skill level of Hyul is at 5th circle magic. The reporter asked again to confirm that. The professor put his hand on Hyul's shoulder, smiling and confirming. Yes, I guarantee it. In front of them, reporters took turns taking photos. This is a scoop. Being at a 4th circle level at such a young age is comparable to the records of the Tower Lords. Since the Blue Tower Lord has confirmed it, there is no doubt. For a young person like him to have done such extraordinary things was truly a talent. Along with Kangen's words, it further proved that he was someone who would add new miracles to the Shin family. Hyul, are you really a 4th circle mage? But putting that aside, his friend put his arm around his shoulder again. They were very close friends. Hyul had only one friend. How do you explain ignoring the rules of open-source magic? The reporter asked further. Right, that is it. The others agreed with that question. They were very curious. As for that, the Tower Lord touched his chin, thinking, allow me to explain. He was trying to think of an answer. Ignoring the rules of open-source magic is surprisingly simple. He pointed at himself. He was truly a very humble person, not arrogant. I modified the spell formula. He calmly answered the questions. The Tower Lord was surprised by his answer. It seemed he was very good at speaking. Modifying the spell formula. His eyes lit up. How could he have done it? That is impossible. That's right. It was hard to believe. Modifying a spell formula is like trying to add flight functions to a car. He was like a child who could fly in the sky, believing that this was the best success he had achieved. Not something that can be done easily. It seemed Hyul was truly a very talented child. If he were not AI incompatible, I wonder what his future could have held. Even though he was still young, he had already achieved so much. How far could he have reached when he grew up? That was worth noting. From now on, I will call that modification magic. Everything he said seemed so easy. The professor smiled triumphantly. This kid was truly interesting, revolutionary. His abilities and techniques were extraordinary. From today onward, the entire magic community will be shaken. The name Shin Hyul would be mentioned more and more, and the Shin family would restore its reputation. Modification magic, and I am supposed to believe that. Yeah, believe it. His friend still had a lot of doubt, not believing that what he was reading was real. Right, would you believe it? Anyway, glad you won? So he had remembered the book and that Hyul had invited him to open it. From that he had achieved success. All right, I am heading back to the dorm. Already, but he didn't have too much time to stay and talk to Hyul. This friendship was beautiful. He was willing to spend his limited time to congratulate his best friend. Yeah, I need to manage my condition since I have a tough opponent tomorrow. Tomorrow was his match. He smiled at Hyul and then went back. A tough opponent. He stood there, puzzled. The next day, at the Obelisk Stadium, the next day had arrived. The entire stadium was full of students who came to watch. They were all ready. Shin Hyul's friend had fallen. He seemed to be losing his strength in front of a very strong opponent. So the tough opponent Junho mentioned was him. The opponent must have been very strong to defeat Junho. It was a girl with smooth golden hair. She was a dynamic girl with a strong, resilient physique, Adela Starett, the prodigy born between the Starett family of France and the Korean House of Mystics. It seemed she was no ordinary girl. The magic of Adela is unique. This was a type of power that few could perform. Those who could must be very talented. Even he had not yet found a satisfactory answer. The reason for that is the secretive moon element magic of the House of Mystics. It was similar to how he performed. People stood in the middle of the circle and away from their opponents. Even though Junho used all his strength to fight, he could not resist her. She just needed to raise her hand. It was as if she had gathered all her existing power. Junho flew back dozens of meters. Match over. The referee blew the whistle, signaling the end of the match. Winner, Adela Starett, and the result was in front of everyone. The winner was her. Even though Junho had prepared his mind to fight, he could not win. Hyul sat in the stands with a somber expression. His eyes suddenly lit up, a secret magic blending light and dark elements, shining moonlight, the secretive magic of the House of Mystics. Secret magic is not registered in open-source magic in terms of range, distance, power, or features. He calmly analyzed the techniques that the girl had used in the match today. It is natural to feel that facing him would be difficult. He closed his eyes, thinking everything was very easy for him. So why couldn't Junho win? Suddenly he stopped, his eyes shining with a glimmer of hope for the girl. She looked very familiar. He calmly recalled, is she looking at me right now? Oh no, wasn't she looking at him? Had the two of them known each other from before? Damn it. Good job, here, have an energy drink. He immediately gave water to Junho, his only best friend. He seemed to be in a lot of pain, unable to hold the water bottle firmly with one hand. He comforted and encouraged his friend to face Adela as an opponent. Talk about bad luck, for him, this was not an equal battle. She was truly very strong. Hyul, standing behind him, patted his back. It seemed that the girl was coming towards them. Did you win your second match? Junho asked with a doubtful look. Of course, Hyul confidently replied, as if nothing could affect him. So that means your next opponent is, it was that girl. If that was the case, then this was a battle of equals, as he could defeat her. Nice match earlier. It was a good fight, she praised the previous match. Junho shyly touched his head, replying, oh, thanks, I learned a lot too. He had used all his time, but the results were not what he had hoped. There seemed to be something between the three of them. She focused on Shin Hyul, who was still confused. Why was she paying attention to him like this? Shin Hyul, returning to the way a maid should be. Right, my reason for enrolling in the academy. I hope you help me remember it. It seemed they had met before. She wanted to come to the academy because she had read the article written about him. Shin Hyul, she approached the two people standing there. It seemed a very important conversation was about to begin. I have heard that recently you have returned to being a proper mage. She got straight to the point that she wanted to mention. It was because of that curiosity that she appeared today. The reason I enrolled in the academy, she only wanted him to help her remember how to use magic for a long time. I hope you help me remember it. Madashin family, Adela, and I. House of Mystics. We knew each other even before enrolling. They had known each other before. It wasn't this battle that had put them on equal footing. The Madashin family and the House of Mystics have a good relationship. Because of that, Adela and I had many opportunities to meet at various events. Their fathers were very close, which had created opportunities for their relationship. They had met in events since they were young, but she was very naive and shy at that time. Unlike now, she was very strong now. If I were to describe my relationship with Adela in one word, it would be rivals. They were very close to each other through many competitions, big and small. Adela even gave up studying in France and enrolled at Obelisk just to surpass me. She had a very high desire to learn since she was young. She had a chance to participate in almost all major and minor awards, and so did he. Even during important moments in his life, she had appeared. But what she wanted was to beat Hyul once, but ever since I was designated as AI incompatible, it was from then on that the rumors said he was no longer bringing glory to the family. The two of them almost lost contact with each other. We have not spoken once. Since then, they seem to have lived in two opposite worlds. Becoming labeled as AI incompatible was a significant event for me and a major blow for Adela, who lost her goal of a rival. From then, they separated because they no longer had the same way of fighting. Adela, I am not yet someone worthy of being your goal. He smiled and brushed his hair behind his ear. He didn't seem to want to fight with her. We will see about that, once we fight. She wanted to see if her strength had improved after many years of practice. Who would be the winner this time? Hey Hyul, are you sure you are ready? Junho put his hand on his shoulder and asked. Ready for what? He replied, wasn't his next opponent her? What would happen in this match? Are you asking because you really don't know? Junho suddenly reacted strongly to his answer. He thought he was very careless. Your next opponent, it is Adela Starett. Exactly. The person he was about to fight next was her. Junho was worried for his friend because even he couldn't fight her. What? Hyul looked puzzled. Time passed quickly, and now it was afternoon. The next day, the atmosphere in the stadium was once again bustling. Adela stretched to relax her joints. The referee was watching the time. Where is Shin Hyul? Did he chicken out and run? Figures. The students all gathered because the match was about to start, but Hyul was nowhere to be seen. They laughed, thinking that he had run away because he was afraid of losing. That his victory last time was just luck. In the interview, he was all about his modified magic, but in the end, it was just talk. They wouldn't be able to see his magic directly, She was still standing there, waiting for her childhood friend. Isn't it obvious? He probably realized he couldn't win against Adela and bailed. All the rumors were being said. He also gave himself a reason why he couldn't see Hyul. It had been a long wait, and the referee was starting to sweat. He was losing his patience. She was still standing there waiting. Time is up. Following the rules, Adela Starett wins by default. So, Yahello had actually given up, and the winner was Adela. Wait, a loud sound rang out. Yahello seemed to be running as fast as he could to get to the match on time. He was holding his jacket and running, breathing as he spoke. Sorry for being late. He gradually regained his composure and smiled confidently. Shin Yahello, what took you so long to get here? The referee angrily yelled. They had been waiting for a long time. No, I will hear the explanation later. I will not give you any time to catch your breath. Consider it a penalty for being late, not letting him catch his breath. The fight was about to begin now. Take your positions, the referee yelled loudly. Yahello looked annoyed. He gradually got into the right position, stretching his wrists. Can I ask why you were late? She also prepared her stance, not forgetting to ask her friend why he was late. Nothing major. He closed his eyes and sighed. Just some preparations. After saying that, blue lights immediately appeared. Preparations. She didn't understand what he meant. You are quite strong, Adela. So I had to prepare myself to beat you. He didn't forget to reassure her before the fight. Against such a strong opponent, he really had to spend a lot of time to maybe win. This will be an interesting fight. You prepared in a day. Was one day enough? She wondered. I can feel it. The Shin Yahello in front of me is different from yesterday. Only someone who was good at magic could sense Yahello's changes. Can I expect to see your true power? She was very eager to see the power of her comrade. Let me tell you in advance, he attacked immediately. You will have to go all out from the start. As a piece of advice he wanted to give her, match begin. The match officially started. Above her head, a golden fireball appeared. It was sparkling and bright, simpler than what Yahello had done. She pointed at Yahello, flame revolver. Immediately, she jumped high. A fiery red fireball was right in front of her. Not one, but three at once. Yahello was still not in a hurry. Now, he summoned wind. It was wind energy. The winds faced the fire circles directly. She bent her hands, summoning them again. Earth needle. In her hands, she had a weapon. A long stick that had deformed the ground. Wherever the golden light went, the ground started to change color. They stopped in front of Yahello. He immediately flew up to dodge. Being in midair, you can't dodge this, she warned him. Her eyes lit up. She stood in the center of the magic circle. Arrow impact. An attack aimed at a defenseless state in midair. He had already guessed the technique she had used. Even if you know it is coming, you cannot avoid this. Most people would think that. But, he smiled triumphantly. Barrier. He had created a small glass panel with enough weight to balance on it. A defensive barrier magic, in midair. No way. The other students made a commotion when they witnessed the scene. What is that? Even she couldn't believe her eyes. He flipped the barrier and used it as a platform. He had created a barrier and could confidently stand on it without being affected. Shin Yahello. She called his name. He still smiled. Still the same with that unique magic sense. The House of Mystic's secret moon element magic. To counter that, I will need to use everything I have. He decided to combine all of them. And to make this happen, the scene was now very harmonious. I will even bring the sun into this battle. He decided to use even the natural energy in this fight and to show everyone, the House of Mystic's hidden moon attribute magic. To counter that magic, I will need to use everything I have. He wanted everyone to see the power he possessed, and so he decided to use natural energies. For this battle, I will even summon the sun. He would use the sunlight. That was why he was late for the meeting, to take advantage of the noon sun to get more energy. Ugh! She was almost unable to stand because of the light. The sunlight. It wasn't ordinary light. It was truly scorching, capable of burning a person to death. An attack is coming. He stood on the barrier he had created earlier, using his hand to gather almost all of the sunlight. I have no choice but to defend. Great shield. She immediately summoned a shield for protection. It was very large, covering a large area. He bent over, jumped down, and used arrow. It looked like a sword made of ice, surrounded by a layer of frost. He slashed it directly at the shield she had created. She could only use all her strength to resist. He clenched his teeth, using arrow, a first circle spell, with a third circle defensive spell. He is definitely being cautious. He seemed to have grasped all the next moves of his opponent. After jumping high with the sword, he immediately jumped down, making sure his feet didn't slip on the ground. Alright, now it is my turn. Now, she would show Yahello what true power was. Under her feet, it seemed like something was keeping her balanced. She jumped high. Both of them were very focused. Earthbind. Her feet were surrounded by rocks. They wouldn't let her escape. Meanwhile, Yahello had been sitting down for a long time. Even she didn't know when the rocks had appeared. Could it be did he cast the spell the instant he landed? Exactly when he landed on the ground. Everything seemed to have been planned in advance. He is fast. My eyes can barely keep up with his movements. She couldn't keep up with someone as fast as lightning. She couldn't grasp his next movements. As she finished speaking, she saw that Yahello was already very far away. He once again recited water. It was the power of water. Holding it in his hand, he was confident that he would freeze her quickly, using fire to break free from the stone seal. Under his feet, he immediately regained his energy. Water. All around were water monsters. They were adorable dolphins. There were 4 dolphins running towards her. This attack was very intense. She had to be very quick to dodge them. Using all her strength to resist, he is more manageable than I expected. In her mind, she thought that he was just constantly creating difficulties, and that she had to face him calmly. In my opinion, Yahello used the 4th circle spell, Memorize. She remembered his interview. Memorize can only activate spells of the 3rd circle or lower. As a 4th circle mage, Yahello can only use 1st circle spells now. That being said, Yahello was very easy to deal with. It seemed that she was likely to win this battle. A 1st circle spell cannot take me down. They were very easy to defeat, like killing an ant. It seemed that her childhood friend still hadn't changed. She was stronger. The white clouds seemed to be disappearing, and the light was less glaring. A blue light immediately struck where Adela was standing. When did he find the chance to attack? She was surprised by his attack. It seemed she was so caught up in her victory that she forgot how quickly he could perform them. Could it be that he was hiding a modified magic wind spear? It was unacceptable. He was like the wind. That was why she had forgotten that he could combine powers. In the sunlight along, it was when the sunlight gradually faded that they would appear and attack her. She was hurt. Her face showing pain, she fell down, no longer having any strength, while Yahello confidently stood there as if nothing had happened. Did you forget who you were up against? He asked her. Since they were young, he had won many matches against her. Meaning he knew how she distributed her spells. Recently, he had also won against a relatively strong opponent. Yet she had forgotten, focusing too much and forgetting to defend. Adela Starett, he called her name. Adela was almost exhausted. His battle instincts are beyond imagination. It was impossible to predict his next actions. From the moment he evaded that first attack, Earth Needle, Yahello had planned everything. The professor seemed to have guessed all the techniques Yahello had used. He carefully analyzed everything. By dodging into the air, he baited the attacks of Adela. Using the barrier as a platform, he climbed higher. It was because of that it was easier for him to win, shielding his figure in the sunlight. Because at that moment, everyone would lose focus, making it easier for him to perform, blocking the sight of Adela. Then, from Memorize, he set up a delayed wind spear, and it was at that moment that he successfully distracted Adela. Then, while descending, he used enro to focus her attention on him. The professor continued to analyze. At that moment, she was only paying attention to his actions, forgetting her defense. All 3 of them were focused on the analysis, making it seem like a ground battle with Earth Bind, making it impossible for her to move and escape. And when he was in line with the sun, he immediately carried out the plan. He launched the precast wind spear. It was truly an interesting fight, a grand mage of 1st circle. I now see why he has earned that title recently, so that was the reason. Yahello's father sat on his chair, discussing, but at the end of the day, it is still just 1st circle magic. He still didn't truly believe in him. Look, the 2 were still standing on the field. The winner had not yet been announced. Adela looked very tired, while Yahello was still full of energy. Even in a favorable position, he cannot land a finishing blow. He criticized his son for not ending the match quickly and for letting his opponent get up. He cannot end this. It was difficult for him. If the opponent were a boy, it would have been different, and Adela has not even used that magic yet. He gave her a chance, looking at her, truly impressive. You remind me of that time. She confidently fought again, reminding him of the past. I too will face you with my full strength. Yes, but now it was different. Finally, he took a defensive stance. She performed once again. She was like a shadow now. The ultimate moon attribute. House of Mystics hidden magic. Hello, the last chance for her to win. Could she do it? Adela Starett immediately cast her spell. Multiple magic circles began to appear above her head, her hair fluttering in the air, reflecting a blue light. And the ground beneath her feet began to crack and spread. Shin raised his hand to shield his face, trying to block the strong wind. A dense stream of light full of pressure, radiating from the rotating magic circles, shone directly down on the stands. Shin and Hook, no longer watching, stood up, causing Kim Kangan and Jang Sua to glance at him. He turned his head and smiled inquisitively. Are you leaving, sir? Shin and Hook glanced back and retorted, the match is over, there's no need to watch any further. Suddenly, a cheer erupted from the stands. causing them to turn their heads. Jiang Sua gripped the tablet in her hand in shock. No way. He furrowed his brow and smirked in surprise. That is, Ji Sun Chan below widened his eyes in disbelief as if seeing something very unexpected. Adela, unable to believe her eyes, clenched her fist and stammered, it can't be. At this moment, a red-hot magic circle appeared behind Shin Hyul, surrounded by fire spirit power. He raised his hand, and immediately a powerful wave of spirit power erupted. Shouting, "Volcano!" She was taken aback, stumbling backward. Level 2 magic. Shin Hyul looked at her expression with excitement, becoming more smug. I told you, I was delayed because I had to prepare to defeat you. Adela looked at him and said, the limit of recording is only up to level 1 magic. Then she frowned and scrutinized him. You've reached the 5th magic circle. He remained silent, only smiling as he looked at her. Hyul recalled the moment the night before, when flickering lights from the lamps shone through the cluttered windows at the Obelisk Academy dormitory. He sat on his bed, arms crossed, pensively looking at a book. He frowned, thinking, Adela is not someone I can defeat with just level 1 magic. Next, he picked up the Idrid book and pondered, my fighting style is not suitable for the lunar mystic arts. He opened it, closed his eyes, and sighed. I originally thought I would wait until I completely mastered it before overwhelming her. Thinking this, he began to read it. In the latest page of Idrid, if I can truly control the deathly blaze, he flipped through other pages and muttered, it says to transmit energy into the magic circle of the next page. Suddenly, words appeared from within the book. This magic circle will take you to a new level. Shin Hyul was suddenly surprised. Is it some kind of mechanism? Then, as he spoke, he cast a spell, releasing a blue light. I'll try it. No need to hesitate. Hyul poured his energy into the book. One wave of powerful magic force after another surged out. The magic circle seemed to respond, and its reaction made him gasp in astonishment. Suddenly, it emitted a powerful emerald green light. Hyul frowned, his eyes unable to directly look at it. Damn it, it's glowing again. Ugh! Its intensity increased with each second, blurring the surrounding space as he yelled in pain. In a flash, he disappeared, seemingly sucked into the book, with only the flashing light and silent space left. Shin Hyul squinted after the light, feeling himself being teleported, muttering, oh, he opened his eyes, surprised by the scenery, exclaiming in admiration. Hyul looked around the strange, vast space, wondering, where am I? A voice from behind spoke, welcome to the first trial page. He turned back to look at her, who introduced herself. I am Alpha, the guide managing the first trial page. He was surprised and confirmed. The first trial page. She nodded, that's right. Then she held out her hand and explained, this is the first trial page inside the Idrid book. Hearing this, he remembered the magic circle on the book's page and fearfully stepped back. Inside the book, he looked around, thinking, it's not teleportation to some far-off place, but actually inside the book. He smirked in amusement. Unbelievable. Alpha began to explain in detail. In this trial, we will check if your deathly blaze is truly complete. Next, with a vacant look, she held out both hands, saying, trial instructions will be given when it begins. She continued, if you pass, pages 18 to 31 will update with information about level 2 magic. He frowned, stroking his chin, thinking, so I have to pass the trial to get information about the next magic circle. Alpha looked at him inquisitively. Explanations are finished. Let's begin the trial. Hyul clenched his fists in excitement and determination. Of course, let's start right away. She closed her eyes, bowed, understood, then she flew up in front of him. Then let's begin the first trial. Alpha closed her eyes and then dissolved into fragments. Seeing this scene, Hyul's eyes widened in surprise. He recalled the scene of her disappearance and pondered, I didn't think she was human, but I didn't expect her to be a magical entity. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Now, I will explain the trial. He looked up, wondering. This is the professor's voice. A sparkling, multicolored stone appeared in space. He held out his hands to receive it, along with the introduction. The name of this crystal is Mana Light System. It is an incomplete crystal, with 4 uneven attributes mixed together. Hyul stared blankly, listening intently. Your task is to completely purify this crystal. He looked at it questioningly. Completely purify this crystal. Then, he carefully examined the stone, pondering. The Mana Light System is an extremely fragile crystal. It requires very careful control of mana. He frowned, observing, inside this crystal, there are 4 types of mana existing in a chaotic state. Then, he imagined a spoon and a mixture that needed to be separated. And now I have to purify it. It's like being asked to separate sand, salt, sugar, and pepper from a fine mixture. Yahello stood there thinking. This is not simple. Usually, only those who have mastered mind intention can purify it. The more he thought, the more excited he became, looking at it in his hand. But this will be very interesting. His eyes flashed with determination. Mind intention. Initially, the mana inside the crystal was still mixed together chaotically. After a while, using his mind intention, the mana streams gradually separated. Yahello frowned, mobilizing all of his remaining energy, trying to purify it, releasing pure power that flew around him. He closed his eyes, frowning, concentrating. The mana streams completely separated, each flowing on its own. Without any mixing, suddenly, blue rays of light began to flash from the stone, emitting a resounding sound, the energy increasing, causing him pain. It powerfully and unexpectedly shone, pushing Yahello back, crashing into the bookshelf, making him cry out in pain. Tiredly, he covered his head with the book, thinking, if the mana fluctuates even a little, it will create shockwaves. They are sending a warning signal. Taking the book down, he pondered. Even if I try to separate the mana, they have mixed together to the point where it's difficult to separate them. Not giving in or giving up, he became excited again. But I've thought of an idea. I'll keep trying no matter how long it takes. Finishing his thoughts, he continued to work on it, not knowing how much time had passed. Each time he almost completed the purification, it would blow him away. I continuously experimented with purifying it, time after time. Stumbling did not discourage Yahello. He wiped away his sweat and charged back in. Knocked down, he would get back up. Just a small lapse in concentration would cause me to start over. I've repeated this countless times. Heaven doesn't forsake those who persevere. And finally, he succeeded. Mana light system. The mysterious voice sounded again. Congratulations on passing the trial. After a moment of silence, it acknowledged, the inheritor. He looked joyfully at his hand, which was covered in sweat. The voice spoke again. You have mastered mind intention. I will update the Idrid book with the level 2 circle. The technique for creating the resonance circle. Yahello startled awake, feeling the familiar space. He looked around, frowning and wondering. I'm back. The magic circle also began to disappear. He watched it vanish, forcing a smile. All right, finally, I've learned the method of weaving the level 2 magic circle. Then, with determination, he glanced at the book, pondering. Before the next match begins, the next page of the book glowed as if inviting him to continue. I definitely have to master the level 2 magic circle. Sometime later, a clear blue sky covered the vast space of the battlefield. The silence was broken by Adela's echoing voice as she unleashed her family's secret technique, moonlight, from her hands. Circular magic formations appeared, spinning like bright moons, forming a devastating tornado that overwhelmed Yahello. Adela gracefully turned, her hands skillfully controlling the magic, a dense and brilliantly sharp light shining down on the battlefield from above brought with it a tremendous pressure, causing the ground to shake and crack. Sun-chan worriedly clenched his fists. Damn it, Yahello is going to be obliterated. She turned her head, flipping her hair. The match is already over, she thought. I didn't expect him to become so strong in such a short time. Her gaze swept over him, pondering. Shin Hill, just what kind of person are you? She recalled the scene from her childhood when she was envious of his achievement. But it's over now. She silently ended the memory. The genius I once admired is no more. Adela turned to leave when she heard an unexpected cheer behind her. Curious, she turned back. Huh, what was that? Yahello stood up, his eyes glowing red. Level 2 circle, activate resonance. He raised his hands, creating 2 energies. Red and blue behind him. A red magic circle. Darkness obscures vision. Then he looked at both his hands as if a thought flashed through his mind. He merged the 2 spirit powers, 2 hands spinning behind him, muttering. Combine the 2 infinite magic circles. The 2 hands separated, facing each other, with the will of freedom. His eyes shined with determination, as if reciting an incantation. Become my hands and feet. In Hyuk and Kim Kangan were shocked into silence by the scene. Sun-chan and the spectators watching had the same wide-eyed, gaping expressions of astonishment. Adela was equally surprised. What is going on? Behind him, a large magic hand was pushing her light to both sides. Without hesitation, he pointed his finger like a gun towards her, saying, Volcano. Seeing this, she retreated and cast a defensive spell. A large assault rifle emerged from the magic circle, Resonance version 1. She was aghast. Her eyes widened, staring intently. Continuous bullets were fired at a terrifying speed. Adela remained calm in her gaze, although in her heart, she already knew. No. Although she had activated her defensive technique, the shield around her shone in an effort to resist. But she knew very well, she could not stop it. Adela opened her eyes, smiling happily at him. You've returned, once again, the target I'm aiming for. On the opposite side, he did not stop. The gun in his hand firing aggressive, powerful, and accurate bullets according to his commands. The referee stepped back a few steps, his eyes intently focused on the tense battlefield. A strong wind swept up dust, causing him to raise his hand to shield his face. The dust settled, leaving behind a tense, quiet scene. Both stood firm, looking at each other without saying a word. In-hyuk and Kim Kangan anxiously waited for the result from above. Adela tried to stand, but the power from the battle had become too much for her to endure. Her body swayed, her vision blurred. She staggered and fell to the ground in an instant. He also collapsed, panting wearily. The referee immediately announced. Amid the cheers of the audience, the match is over. The winner is Shin Hyul. Kim Kangan turned to leave, asking, "Are you leaving, sir?" Shin In-hyuk happily said, "I have another meeting." He smirked. "Is that so? Then, glancing down at the stands, you really are." Seeing Hyul's victory, he continued, "Not very good at lying, are you?" A little while later, he moved to the resting room inside. Hyul sighed, taking off his coat, groaning. "I'm so tired." He thought about absorbing magic from Mimmer's book, the second infinite magic circle. Resonance, synchronization, and with the mind intention circle to amplify magic, and lunar system magic is a hybrid magic. Then, he thought about someone who uses light, by combining the range of light magic and the potential of dark magic, and someone who uses dark magic. By adjusting the intensity of dark elements, like mixing potions in a cup, I can narrow the attack range. He then remembered casting the magic hand to block Adela's attack and that he countered her moonlight using enhanced dark magic. Anyway, lunar magic is a unique secret technique of the mystic family. Not everyone can use it. He recalled when he could unleash the spirit power circle, but by observing and summarizing the magic structure. I successfully controlled pure mana. The resonance circle allows me to analyze magic with a more unique perspective. Hyul raised his hand to his face, pondering, exploring the structure of lunar magic. The process of purifying the mana light system also trained my ability to control mana. If it weren't for these factors, defeating Adela would have been nearly impossible. Suddenly, everyone gathered noisily, which made him curious. Kim Kangan pushed up his glasses, smiling and looking around. After identifying his target, his long legs strode over. He stopped in front of him, smiling and saying, "Hey, Hyul." Hyul opened his eyes wide, looking confused. Realizing who it was, he exclaimed in surprise, "The master of the magic tower." He looked at Hyul and proposed, "I came because I wanted to talk with you." Hyul, Kim Kangan invited Shin Hyul to the VIP lounge to chat. He smiled gently and said, "I apologize for disturbing you while you needed to rest. I watched your match. It was truly amazing." Hearing the praise, Hyul was grateful. "Thank you, sir." He adjusted his glasses and said in a serious tone, "I'll ask directly. Hyul, are you?" He paused, looking at him inquisitively. Already at the fifth magic circle. Hearing this, Hyul was startled and fell silent. At this moment, he thought back to the moment he used the magic circle in the battle. Thinking back, "I used level 2 magic in the match. The head of the blue tower must have thought I used recording magic." Then, he thought about the ranks, from 8 to 1. If I use level 2 magic, then of course I'm a level 3 mage or higher. He waved his hand in his mind, thinking, he'll mistake me for reaching level 5. He quickly retorted, "No, I haven't reached level 5 yet." Kim Kangan eagerly asked, "I see. Then, how did you use level 2 magic?" Hyul. Shin Hyul was speechless as he saw the other's inquisitive eyes, which were not giving up. "If I said it was vision magic, you probably wouldn't believe it, right?" He rubbed his chin, muttering, "If it's vision magic, it's transformation magic." He recalled Hyul's quick interview, confirming that you mentioned in the previous interview, right? Hyul nodded, answering casually, "Yes, it's transformation magic." Thinking, "Just let it be," forcing a smile. He was full of calculation. Even so, reaching level 5 at the age of 18 is very unbelievable. This will cause an uproar in the whole world. Later, when I use level 3 magic, it will definitely cause trouble. Hearing what he said, he pondered, "I have to hide this for now." Kangan curiously continued, "Vision magic is truly amazing, but what about level 2 magic?" Then, he looked at Hyul intently, waiting for an answer. Hyul startled and slightly frowned, putting his hand to his chest. "I improved the recording spell." Hearing this, the other became excited. Improved the recording spell. Suddenly, as if he had figured something out, Kangen stood up and laughed loudly. That's right, that's the only way. Then, he walked next to Hyul, looking up and rubbing his chin, sighing, truly. Very impressive. Next, with cold eyes, he glanced at Hyul, reaching out his hand. He patted Hyul's shoulder multiple times, praising, I'm so impressed, I can't believe you even improved the weakness of the recording spell. Hyul felt embarrassed. Thank you, sir. Kangen suddenly didn't say anything more. Only looked at him, causing him to feel confused and widen his eyes. He leaned in, his hand still on Hyul's shoulder, observing him closely. His red pupils were like sharp blades, silently scrutinizing every expression, every movement. Hyul felt flustered, his heart beating rapidly. He tried to keep calm but unconsciously looked back. Each second passed slowly, uncomfortably, like an invisible string tightened, not allowing anyone to move or speak. Kangen smiled, a faint but meaningful smile. His lips moving, mumbling indistinct words, red eyes. His hand, which was on Hyul's shoulder, unexpectedly dropped. I'm sure now, he murmured. He gently turned his head, a faint smile appearing on his lips, erasing the tension from before. There is no trace of the mana of a level 5 mage, now I'm sure. Kangen raised his hand to adjust his tie carefully. As you said, Hyul, you're still not level 5. I'll take my leave now. Then, he raised his hand again, gently pushing up his glasses, glancing quickly at Hyul. As he left, he added, I'll explain everything to the press. Crimson Eye Magic. Hyul was surprised and stood up, turning back. Has been verified. After speaking, he bowed slightly, as if in farewell, but he only stood there, silently, without saying a word. Hyul looked up, gently running a hand through his hair as if to calm himself. His eyebrows furrowed, and a hint of annoyance flashed in his eyes. Thank you, sir. Please be careful on your way back. The image of Kangen's crimson eyes appeared in his mind, sharp as blades. I didn't expect the Tower Master to use Crimson Eye Magic to confirm. He felt as if he had been scrutinized within his gaze. Crimson Eye Magic, for the head of the Blue Tower, Kim Kangen's magic eye. Can see through the essence of mana. Considered the strongest clairvoyant magic eye in the world. Hyul thought it over, feeling goosebumps. I escaped because the Tower Master didn't catch me, huh? Then, he pondered about the book. Beitner-style magic is my greatest secret. I can't risk revealing it. The next morning, the sky was still clear, the golden sunlight gently shining down everywhere. The atmosphere suddenly changed when an announcement rang out through the loudspeaker. The match is over. Hyul defeated his opponent. The referee declares the winner, Shin Hyul. He used his cold eyes to retract his magic. He was walking in the hallway when he heard a call from behind. Wait, surprised, he turned back to see Adela, seeing her head bandaged. He quickly walked over, wondering, I thought you had to be out for about 4 hours, but you're already back. She nodded, replying, yeah, I'm fine now. Hyul, hand on his hip, slightly frowned. So, what is it? She hesitated. It's nothing big. I wanted you to give me your thoughts about our match. Then, she brushed her hair, feeling shy. After all, there's still the final match, so if you're tired, we can talk later. He smiled and pointed, no need, let's talk now. His words made Adela's eyes sparkle with anticipation. Comments are also helpful to me. Follow me to the waiting room. Then, looking at his back, she recalled, just like the previous match, there isn't much about tactics or how to use magic that I can learn. One day, I will also. She stared intently, determined. One day, I also want to be like that. He scratched his head, feeling embarrassed, and chuckled to himself. I can feel the intense heat behind me. At this moment, in a high-rise building, the warm rays of the sun reflected off the shiny walls, creating sparkling, shimmering streaks of light. The morning light filtered through the large windows, illuminating every corner of the interior space. A long-haired, purple-haired girl looked at the screen, seeing him being interviewed happily, and exclaimed, Shin Hyul, I thought it was already over. A flag bearing the symbol of a dragon, the headquarters of the Shin group, she looked at Hyul through the screen. Clenching her fist, damn it, she frowned, full of resentment and jealousy. I thought it was over. Turning her head to look at someone else, she said, Brother, are you going to just let Hyul be? The one speaking irritably was Shin Seiya, the young miss of the Shin family. He, Shin Ji-han, smirked. What else can I do? She yelled in frustration and anger, placing her hand on herself as if wanting to release all those heavy emotions. What if they bring Hyul back home? Do you remember what happened a year ago? You know better than anyone. Seiya reached out her hand, her fingers trembling with anger, each movement seeming to try to suppress a terrible rage. Do we have to taste being treated like that again? He held a cup, exhaling lightly, as if there was nothing to worry about. Don't worry, say ah. An image of a young Hyul appeared clearly. A glorious boy holding a trophy, his eyes shining with pride. A year ago, that brat might have been a genius, turning to look at him through the screen. His eyes cold and challenging, but now, he's just a piece of trash who can only use level 2 magic in a real fight. His eyes were sharp like knives, scrutinizing every movement. You watched his match too, didn't you? She angrily spoke up, rebutting immediately. But brother, everyone is going crazy about how amazing he is. Jihan put his arm around Sei-ah's shoulder, a gesture that was both gentle and full of intention. Listen carefully. Sei-ah, pulling her closer. He looked at the image of Hyul fighting, analyzing. All of his recent opponents were just around level 3 students. Against a level 4 mage, he can easily defeat them. Watching the moment he used his magic, he continued. But Hyul has a fatal weakness. He is not compatible with AI magic. He drank as he affirmed. He's barely managing to compensate for that by using tricks and lower-level spells. In the end, Hyul is still far inferior to an average level 4 mage, after all. His skill level is too low. She listened in confusion but was not very reassured. So, is that really the case? Is that really true? I thought so too. No matter how hard he tries, he'll still have to crawl on the ground. He nodded. Someone who is incompatible will always be incompatible. She bit her finger, thinking, if, just in case, then. She uttered a sentence that made him frown and a bit worried. He threatens our position as the next head of the family. Jihan, feeling it was reasonable, became furious, releasing spirit power that crushed the cup. We can deal with it later. It won't be too late. The sky gradually changed from a cool blue to a pale orange, then gradually deepened, as if the sky was dyeing itself in the colors of sunset. A powerful light from above covered the entire place where the battle was held. Each beam of light shone down, making the vast space seem to awaken. At this moment, on the arena floor, the battle was still going on tensely. A shout rang out from the middle of the arena. And immediately, a person fell, their body hitting the ground hard. The referee blew his whistle, raising his hand. The match is over. The loudspeaker announced as only one person stood firm. The champion of the second-year midterm exam is Shin Hyul. The students around cheered loudly. The cheers echoed throughout the space. A genius has reappeared. Amazing, so cool. As expected of the Shin family, he stood firm, enjoying the applause. Incredible. Then, beaming, he raised his hand to accept it. Forbidden magic that surpasses AI magic. Shin Hyul is truly a genius. Ji Sun-chan was excited. Hyul, you were so cool. He ran over, shaking his shoulder repeatedly. You really did it. Everyone recognizes your skill. Congratulations. Sun-chan, calm down. In contrast to the joy behind him, 3 jealous individuals muttered, TCH, what's wrong with that guy? Without forbidden magic, he's nothing. Go Chang-su stepped forward, smiling brightly. Congratulations, Shin Hyul. As your homeroom teacher, I'm very proud of you. Sun-chan playfully said, Oh ho, teacher, will you treat us to a celebration for Hyul's victory? He sighed, speechless. Ji Sun-chan, please, I'm begging you. He laughed. I've already planned to invite all of you, no need to ask. He excitedly put his arm around Hyul's shoulder. Jumping up, great, awesome, let's go. Come with us, Hyul awkwardly said. Wait a minute, he shyly raised his hand. I'm sorry, I really want to go, but I have an important meeting. He was surprised, disappointed, and let go of him. Oh man, come on. Then he looked and complained. Without the guest of honor, what kind of party is it? Hyul winked and quickly left. Sorry, it's really very important. Hyul looked at Chang-su, patting his shoulder to comfort him, who was now disappointed. Sorry, Sun-chan. He changed his clothes, putting on a stylish suit. I have a very important promise to keep. He was mature and serious, frowning. Then, he walked to the car in front of him. We have been waiting for you, sir. He looked at Hyul cautiously. Young master, the old butler bowed respectfully, gesturing to the car. The head of the family is waiting for you. I will escort you to the main house. In the evening, as the light gradually faded, the windows of the mansion began to light up. Each window seeming to be awakened by the light from inside. The car slowly drove in. He stood in front of the door, silent but hesitant to enter. Hyul frowned, deep in thought. It's been a year, recalling the image of Inhu coldly turning his back to him. Since being deemed incompatible with AI magic, after opposing his cold father and moving to the academy dormitory, he had never been allowed to set foot in the house. Thinking, he gathered his courage and pushed the door open, stepping inside. Looking around, he muttered, Nothing has changed. Everything is still as I remember. He walked quietly in silence. Reaching a door, he stopped. Thinking about his father's cold eyes, an image that still haunted him, Yahello clenched his fist. Father's research. He frowned, his eyes staring intently at the door. Finally, I'm back here. Finally, having no other choice, he decided to knock on the door. The soft knock echoed in the quiet space, awakening Yahello, who was already sitting inside. He frowned and said in a deep voice, "Come in." Receiving the call, Yahello opened the door and stepped inside. In the silent night, everything seemed to stop. A dim light from the windows of the house flickered, cutting through the darkness that enveloped the surroundings. Yahello stood hesitantly before the door, his eyes gazing thoughtfully at it, pondering. I have to come here again. The sound of knocking on the door echoed in the quiet space, causing the small room to suddenly awaken. Yahello, holding a book in his hand, spoke, "Come in." Yahello entered, bowing his head. It's been a while. He looked up at him, calling out, "Father." He closed the book, coldly ordering, "Sit down." Then, he placed the book on the table, slowly interlacing his fingers in front of him, his eyes still fixed on Yahello. "I once thought you were just a useless child." Next, he stood up, taking each step decisively, not showing any haste. He walked slowly past Yahello, with a casting speed 20 times slower than average, and with just a slight mistake, the casting would fail. And you also couldn't cast multi-magic. Then, he walked behind Yahello, as if not wanting to look at his son's face, leaving only a powerful shadow weighing down on him. Back then, you were the prime example of a useless person who couldn't fight. His hand rested on the chair as he continued his speech like a sharp arrow. But everyone still thought you would have some special talent, so I told you to switch to learning AI magic, to maximize your potential. He paused for a moment, as if weighing each word. Then continued, his voice unchanged but with a hint of coldness. Of course, I didn't expect much from this. I just saw it as the last choice of a desperate person. Yahello sternly said, "I understand, father." Yahello recalled the content of the news about him on the tablet. He has returned, the one regarded as a genius, Shin Yahello, but due to his incompatibility with AI magic, many people doubt his return, with his recent performance in the Obelisk Academy midterm exams. It's possible that he is standing at the door of resurgence. The whole country is starting to pay attention to him as the youngest son of the prestigious Madoshin family. At 5 years old, he had mastered level 1 magic. At 7 years old, he had mastered casting dual magic. Shin Yahello was once seen as the pride of the family, famous for its long history in the giant magic stone enterprise of the Shin group. He was expected to inherit the position of the head of the family, but failed and disappointed both his father and the public. Then, he walked decisively forward, leaving only silence. Moreover, I have read the article on Ga's page. I see it as a good opportunity for you to regain your honor after the last failure. However, he paused, a heavy silence spreading in the space. You have exceeded my expectations, despite that incompatibility, and, imagining the image of him using magic to fight, he continued, creating transformation magic. Yahello turned around, his eyes no longer cold but instead with a gentle smile. Reaching out his hand, "This time, you won, Yahello," he said in a calm but approving tone. "You deserve to be called a true mage now." Yahello's eyes widened, feeling as if a wave was surging inside him, unable to believe it. He stood up abruptly, unable to suppress his emotions, exclaiming, "Thank you, father." He closed his eyes in relaxation, mentioning, "From now on, the family will do everything to nurture you." Turning around, putting his hands in his pockets, he looked at him, saying, "Whatever you need, just tell me. I will also approve your return to the Madoshin family." Then, he reached out, shouting to confirm, "As the legitimate heir to the family head, bring glory to our clan." Hearing this, Yahello's mouth smiled from ear to ear, happy. He sternly pointed at him, saying seriously, "And I want to remind you of one thing." Next, he stepped closer to him, as if saying something important. His eyes were sharp as knives, as if wanting to penetrate his mind. "If I find out you are procrastinating or being lazy with your training," he raised his hand and put it on his forehead. "Warning, I will destroy your magic circle." Yahello trembled slightly, thinking in horror. As expected, this is the overwhelming aura of an 8-circle mage. How terrifying, but this is my last chance. He regained his composure, replying, "Yes, father." Yahello sat down, asking, "So, what is your goal?" Yahello wondered, "Father is asking about my goal." He nodded, looking at him. "Yes, you once wanted to become the head of the Madoshin family, didn't you?" Then, he intertwined his fingers, thinking about his other children, reminding him, "Jihan, Sei-ah, and Yahello, Minji. Currently, you are the weakest compared to your siblings." Yahello placed his hand on his chest, emphasizing his stance. I told you before, father. My only goal is to become the head of the family, that's all. First, I will make everyone remember my name. He looked at him thoughtfully. How will you do that? He took out a newspaper and placed it on the table, by participating in. He thought about the outstanding individuals who would come. The World Academy Olympics will take place in 2 months. Candidates from all over the world will come to participate. Yahello smiled, his heart full of confidence, and I will bring the gold medal home, according to the story. The Olympics for mages are held annually and always welcome mages under 20 years old, also known as the Magic Olympics. It attracts worldwide attention, on par with professional tournaments. He frowned, saying, but, then. He mentioned the young man who received a medal, the best performer from our country, the master of the Blue Magic Tower, only achieved a silver medal. After speaking, he expressed his skepticism. You still plan to win the gold medal? That doesn't sound realistic at all. You see that too, right? Yahello, unafraid, made a request. Yes, so I want a condition. He was surprised. A condition. His request was related to his other children. Yes, for the next 2 months. Please prevent my siblings from obstructing me. And Hugh, hearing this, fell into thought, tapping his temple. Bold indeed, using something almost impossible to exchange for temporary protection. Normally, I would refuse such unreasonable requests. Then, he suddenly smiled with interest. But this time is different. The clear morning at the academy dormitory, the gentle sunlight shone through the trees, creating shimmering streaks of light on the ground. Books were scattered all over the floor. Yahello slept soundly, surrounded by stacks of magic books. A ray of light shone on his face, causing him to unconsciously startle and squint. Did I fall asleep again? He picked up the book on his body, cracking his neck after a long night, and said to himself. After returning from father's place, I started looking at the requirements for the second test. Yahello diligently practiced with the crystal. I passed the first test, but to reach the third magic circle, I must pass the second test. Then, he remembered the gloomy page in the book. Currently, I don't know where to start. He thought of the red and blue lights intertwining and the magic card. The only thing I know is resonance, meaning I must increase my compatibility with magic. The most difficult phase of the second circle. Yahello frowned, looking thoughtfully at the book. To pass the test, I must touch this and control mana according to the principle of resonance. Then, he flipped to the content page, examining it. A little tip I know is that I need the ring of judgment and the ring of resonance to connect most effectively. The handwriting is too bad. Then, he cast a combined red and blue magic circle. Is it like this? It became clearer, and the text on the page also began to disappear. He looked at it thoughtfully for a while. Then sighed. I'll go for a walk to clear my mind. The sky was clear blue, and the gentle sunlight filtered through the thin clouds. The light shone on the long bridge stretching through the trees along the road. The buildings in the city also began to shine under the warm light. Yahello changed his clothes, putting his hands in his pockets, and strolled leisurely. That's right. Taking a walk from time to time is really relaxing. He looked up, admiring the scenery, breathing in the fresh air. After having breakfast and taking a relaxing walk, I feel like I understand more about resonance now. Suddenly, a voice shouted out in alarm. Hey, be careful! He turned around, and something flashed towards him. Yahello was looking at the sky, when a shout rang out. There, surprised, he turned around. And something flashed towards him. A bag of items flew straight into his face. The owner of it ran over, bowing down and asking, Are you okay? Yahello, holding his face, said, It hurts. Yahello looked up with a pained nose and said, Hey! Surprised, he recognized her and exclaimed, You, Adela! A little later, they were walking together. Yahello walked beside her, his eyes looking at Adela with a lot of questions. Anyway, why did that plastic ball fly towards me? She hesitated. About that, she paused, as if still embarrassed when recalling the incident. I was happily spinning it because I was about to drink banana milk, and then it flew away. Hearing this, he nodded. Ah, I see. She quickly bowed her head. I'm sorry, he smiled, looking at the milk carton in his hand, his eyes sparkling with interest. It's okay. Thanks to you, I also got to drink banana milk. But, are you still only drinking this? Without hesitation, she happily opened her bag full of milk cartons, showing it off to him. Of course. It's the most delicious drink humans have ever made. His eyes widened, looking surprised. So many. There are so many. The sun was still shining warmly under the clear blue sky, but the harsh heat had been replaced with a cool and pleasant atmosphere. Adela held the milk carton, drinking while turning to look at Yahello, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. I heard that you went home, he smiled, his voice warm and gentle. Yeah, I returned to the magic tower yesterday. She looked at him with affection and concern. I'm glad. Do you still want to become the Tower Master? He turned to her in surprise, his eyes wide, unable to hide his shock. Did I say that? Adela smiled, her eyes distant as she recalled childhood memories. Yeah, we talked about that. He looked up at the sky, rubbing his head. No, I no longer dream of that. Startled, she turned to look at him, her eyes wide in bewilderment. What? Have you accepted reality? Then, she lowered her head, frowning, clenching her fist to her lips, muttering, well. Thinking about how the Tower Master has so many outstanding siblings, becoming the family head wouldn't be easy. He tilted his head, surprised by her serious expression. Huh, what are you talking about? He chuckled. Explaining, my dream is to become a master of magic, and stand at the top of the entire mage world. Suddenly, he frowned, his eyes firmly looking at her. No, the entire magic tower. His words made her widen her eyes, standing still in shock. That is, my goal. Adela turned her face to the side, her eyes as if looking into a distant space, softly admiring. The top of the entire mage world. What a great goal, beyond my imagination. She paused for a moment, then smiled, her eyes flashing with mischief as she turned to look at Yahello. As someone who follows you, it feels so intense, the main house of the magic tower. That night, the bright moonlight overhead was gradually obscured by thin clouds drifting by. At the magic tower, the brilliant lights inside shone brightly, illuminating every intricate detail. Ah's shoulders trembled, and she bit her nails continuously. Unable to contain herself, she kicked the table and yelled, "Brother!" She looked at Jahan, shouting loudly, her voice filled with helplessness and confusion. "Aren't you worried at all?" He crossed his arms, saying, "Father must have his own reasons." He frowned, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. I can't believe he would set conditions like that. He recalled their meeting. "Father, why did you call us here?" He frowned, intertwining his hands, and seriously ordered, "I know your personalities well, so I order you, for the next 2 months, not to touch Yahello." Jahan and Ah were shocked and stunned. She angrily questioned, "Father, why?" He stopped her, smiling gently as he asked, "Father, can you tell us the reason?" He sternly looked at them. "You both know that Yahello officially became a tower mage yesterday," reminding them that he was still a young boy who had not reached adulthood. He was still a minor and had been away from his family for a year. They both listened attentively. "Therefore, I think giving him 2 months to adapt to the family is a necessary condition." Enhyuk rubbed his temple, glancing at them, especially the two of them. "You will definitely observe him carefully." Trying to compete for the position of the family head, he felt that his father was favoring and protecting Yahello, and anger was rising in his heart. On the surface, he pretended nothing was wrong, smiling gently as he agreed. "Yes, I understand, father. Is there anything else?" He did not want to say more and turned his back, letting them leave. "That's all. You must be tired. Go and rest." The memories of that conversation shattered and flew away. Clenched her fists, feeling restless as she saw him standing still. "Brother, why did you leave without saying anything?" Suddenly, she frowned slightly, looking at him with some fear. Jihan frowned, annoyed, his anger rising, muttering, "Damn it, I can't accept this." Then, he thought of his father's other 2 children, Minhyuk and Minji, who were not interested in vying for the position of family head, so he understood why they were not called to the meeting. But, then, thinking of Yahello, just let Yahello be because he's been away from home for a year, and recalling Inhyuk's cold instructions. If it were father from before, he would have told us to endure it, saying that a 1-year gap made him unqualified to be an heir. Moreover, the protection for young people only applied up to the age of 16, before the AI marking process, meaning 17 was already beyond that range. He frowned, a blue light flashing in his eyes, confused. Then why? Why did he say that? Ah sat on the chair, anxiously biting her hand. Could it be that father has? He shook his head, refuting that thought. No, no. Yahello hasn't proven enough to father yet, she wondered. Then why? At this moment, he thought of Yahello's magic, creating 2 large magic hands to block Adela's attack. Maybe he saw some potential in it. Then, annoyed, he frowned and guessed. Or maybe father is interested in the mysterious magic system that Yahello has mastered. Or maybe father and Yahello made an agreement. Hearing this, she exclaimed in surprise. An agreement? What kind of agreement? Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and held her head as if going crazy. That's right, father wouldn't make a decision like that. So annoying. Shin Yahello, losing all patience, asked Jahan for his opinion. Should we recall all the people who were sent to monitor him? He shrugged, sighing. Perhaps, unless they are confident they won't be detected by the shadow guards, the black-clad people with their faces covered. their actions mysterious, were the Shadow Guards, the intelligence unit directly under their father, operating as a secret magic force. An elite team specializing in infiltration, information gathering, and escort missions. There was nothing they couldn't do. He slowly walked to the door, tilting his head. To be clear, I've withdrawn all surveillance following Yahello. She stood up, her eyes wide, wanting to know, brother, what do you plan to do? He glanced at her coldly but did not reveal his plan. I'm going out first. Then he left, his mind full of calculation. Even if agrees, sitting still for 2 months isn't my style. If Yahello made some kind of agreement with father, it's a bit risky. I'll have to get involved in the Black Tower. One beautiful morning at the academy, the sky was clear blue without a single cloud, and the gentle early sunlight spread across the roads. Go Chang-su smiled. His eyes filled with satisfaction, holding a tablet and saying, the midterm exams have ended. You all did very well. First of all, our class is honored to have a top student. Let's give a round of applause for Shin Yahello. He stood up amidst the warm applause from everyone. He praised him, handing him a certificate. You achieved first place nationwide. Congratulations. He happily accepted it. Thank you, teacher. He frowned, his eyes becoming more stern as he reminded him. Because you have achieved first place, you must maintain that position for 2 months and participate in the Academy's Olympics. Yahello smiled confidently. Yes, that's exactly what I plan to do. Then he stepped down, heading back to his seat. 2 students nearby jealously made sarcastic remarks, winning with illusion magic and acting all high and mighty. 2 months, he'll be dropped in a week. Right, a misfit is only capable of that much. He heard everything but didn't care, so he didn't say anything. He only gave a confident smile and waited with determination for the upcoming competition. Sun-chan stepped out into the hallway, stretching his arms and yawning while carrying his bag. Finally, it's over. Then he complained into Yahello's ear. What's with the 8 periods of pure theory? Yahello crossed his arms, tilting his head slightly and sighing. At least tomorrow is all practical lessons. Before he could finish his sentence, Yahello lightly punched his chest, making him cough. See, I told you to exercise. He slumped down, holding up his hand. Are you really a mage? He glanced at him. You're so weak. Hearing that, he frowned, sweating and pouting annoyedly. Standing up abruptly, he ran after Yahello, grumbling, that magic reject. Even magic can't tease you anymore. Yahello shrugged, waving his hand. If you're angry, try to surpass me. He angrily clenched his fist with determination. I'll get stronger than you and punch you one day. Hearing that, Yahello smiled and turned around, inviting him. Really? If so, let's go to the training room after dinner to change it up. Hearing that, he fell silent, his face blank with questions, and Yahello glanced at him. What's with that attitude? At this time, the sky was already late afternoon, and the warm golden rays of the sun had faded, giving way to the bright orange and red that enveloped the entire academy. He avoided eye contact, making excuses. Well, I want to, but I can't right now. Yahello frowned, turning his whole body around, placing his hand on his chest. If you don't like it, just say so. He grabbed Yahello's shoulder, rebutting. No, let me be clear. It's not that I hate training. It's just that I hate training with you. Understand. Annoyed, Yahello asked, what about me? He lowered his head, hesitating. Actually, I'm a bit scared. That night, Sun-chan's voice still echoed, the way everyone looks at you, at this time. At the Obelisk Academy training room, everyone was making a fuss, watching in admiration as Yahello lifted weights. Yahello, not paying attention, was just angry inside, thinking about Sun-chan, while lifting weights non-stop. What the hell is he doing, Sun-chan? I told him that training was more important. 2 people on the side whispered to each other. Who is that? Is it even possible for a human to lift that much? One with glasses wondered. Is it Shin Yahello, the second year who placed first in the midterm exams? Finishing the workout, he placed the weights down gently. Then, he took a breath, grabbed a water bottle, wiped his sweat, and walked away. Phew, due to focusing too much on mastering Beitner-style magic, I've neglected physical training. I almost forgot about it. His face was dripping with sweat as he drank, thinking. Even Idrid's book clearly states. He remembered the content of the book, which talked about the flow of mana with the body. The infinite magic circle flows through the body. Linking with the physical body, a strong body and magic circle will create synchronization to improve effectiveness. After thinking for a moment, he began to run again and lift weights. I have to master both magic and training to optimize physical strength. The next morning at Obelisk Academy, a black panther with 3 eyes and yellow pupils appeared. There were 3 of them, and 2 tails wagged around as they surrounded Yahello. After walking for a while, they all bared their teeth and lunged at him. Like a gust of wind, he quickly dodged without breaking a sweat. He was startled, sensing something above his head. One of them jumped from above. He quickly released spirit power, piercing through it. After defeating it, the illusion disappeared. Now, there were two left. He crouched down as they lunged at him, causing them to bump their heads together. Without hesitation, Yahello raised his hand, casting a fireball, volcano. Then, he threw it towards one of them that was lunging at him. The remaining one dodged to the side and attacked him again. The battle ended when all of them were destroyed by the flames. A voice announced, Shin Yahello, completed monster combat training. Chang-Su looked at the monitor, checking the score. The result is, after a moment, he continued, perfect, maximum score. He smiled brightly, tilting his head. Thank you, teacher. He went outside, sitting on a bench, staring intently at his hand. After looking at it for a while, he thought to himself, thanks to the infinite magic circle, my physical energy has improved 1,5 times. Then, clenching his fist, he pondered, if I can reach the third circle, I can become even stronger. I have to quickly enhance the infinite magic circle. He silently lowered his head, circulating blue mana all over his head. It began to spread throughout his body, flying high, becoming dense. He focused, circle of will, circle of resonance, pushing both types of mana to circulate throughout his body, thinking of the red and blue flows that were far apart. Here. I'll adjust the vibration frequency and rotation speed of each circle by 12,25% and 4,63%. They began to move closer to each other. Then increasing the purity of the will mana by 8,9%, they began to move almost touching each other. Just a little bit more, running out of mana, he panted, huff, huff. Yahello was dripping with sweat. Thinking, 99% synchronization. Even if I try it 100,000 times, I still can't reach that 1%. He raised his hand, clenching his fist, full of determination. However, the speed of mastering the magic circle, I will succeed at all costs. One beautiful morning the next day, a hurried but not rushed footstep appeared on the road. Yahello was running while wearing headphones. While running, he sensed something and glanced over. A black-clad figure was lurking, as if waiting to ambush him. Seeing him get closer, he attacked, throwing a fist at Yahello. Although surprised, Yahello, with his quick reflexes, dodged the blow. He turned back, assuming a fighting stance, yelling, "Who are you?" After looking closely, he widened his eyes in surprise, almost speechless. You, a platinum-haired figure, with green eyes full of disgust, looked at him from under his mask. Confused, Yahello called out, "Bek Sahuk, Bek Sahuk." Bek Sahuk continued to throw punches directly at Yahello with lightning speed. But he avoided them easily. He frowned in annoyance. You're really good at dodging, just like a rat. Yahello crouched down, picking up his earphones, asking, what is it? It's the weekend, aren't you going home? Yahello crouched down, rubbing his chin as if he was thinking, his eyes looking at Bek Sahuk teasingly. It's not that you're not going home, it's that you can't, right? He looked at him, smiling provocatively. You're being supervised. So even if you want to go home, you can't. He gritted his teeth, his fists clenched in anger, his neck stiffening. Shut up before I kill you. Yahello laughed mockingly. You used the power of your family to that extent, and that's the result. Even if I wasn't being supervised, I wouldn't go home. How embarrassing. He then recalled the moment he released his spirit power around his neck. Is it because you have nowhere else to go? Bek Sahuk, furious, his eyes flashing with hatred, raised his hand, gathering magic power and creating a bright flame. Shouting, shut your mouth, you useless bastard. Yahello widened his eyes in extreme surprise. That bastard is really going to use that to attack me, using magic right on the street. He maintained the flame, lunging directly at him. You dog. Yahello frowned, carefully observing, predicting the direction of the attack. When the flame was just a step away, he suddenly reached out his hand, blocking the blow, grabbing his collar and arm, pulling him away. Seeing that he couldn't land his attack, Sahuk clicked his tongue. TCH. Yahello didn't hesitate, taking advantage of the opportunity when he lost his balance after the attack was blocked. He quickly used his leg to sweep across, knocking him down. Bek Sahuk couldn't react in time, lost his balance and was immediately thrown to the ground. His body hitting the street hard, Yahello frowned, looking at him struggling on the ground, yelling, "Let me go, you bastard," but thought to himself, this is also an opportunity for me. A little later, a group of people in black suits arrived with cars. Sahuk struggled. Let me go. Today, I'm going to kill that bastard. The man holding him down said, calm down. We'll talk about it later. He resisted. Let me go. Hyul was giving his account to the person in authority. I had to stop him because he attacked me with magic. Then, he pointed to where there was a camera. It's all on CCTV. Hyul continued to give his testimony. I can't believe he used magic in a place like this. That guy. He nodded as if he understood. We'll discuss it in more detail tomorrow at the academy. It's late now. Please go back to your dorm. At this moment, the person on his side was still yelling non-stop, refusing to cooperate. Hyul looked and muttered. Baek Se-hyuk. Keep going like that. Early the next morning at the academy, the students were gathered, making a fuss, watching the school news. They were reading the latest news. Did you know? Baek Se-hyuk used magic outside the school on the weekend? It was chaotic. Suspension and confinement announced. Baek Se-hyuk was penalized 10 points for using magic outside the school grounds. At the Obelisk Academy administrative office, everyone was whispering, making Hyul, who was passing by curiously, look back. Really? But why is he only being penalized 10 points? That's it. Isn't that enough for him to be expelled? Hearing their conversation, he realized that Baek Se-hyuk caused so much trouble but only got a 10-point penalty. As expected, he thought of Baek Se-hyuk being rich with backing. It's due to the immediate intervention of the Baek family. The Baek family was a rising family that donated huge sums of money to the academy to get the title, so the academy couldn't punish him too harshly. Hyul was walking and guessing. Maybe now. Baek Se-hyuk is being beaten up. A little later, on Se-hyuk's side, he was on the phone with a panicked expression as a loud voice echoed from the other end. Hey, you idiot! He was standing behind the academy campus, listening to the call, stammering. Father, I'm sorry, the voice on the other end yelled. I told you to keep quiet until you graduated. Mr. Baek, furious, asked, Is it that difficult? He was scared. No, it's not. Then he gave a warning. If this family doesn't get the title, it's all your fault. Understand? He was panicked and quickly responded, Yes, I'm sorry. Then he looked down at the phone. I'll remember. The call ended, and he couldn't contain his anger. His eyes wide, his body trembling with rage. Damn it. Then, his fist clenched in fury, he threw the phone away violently. He was grinding his teeth, mumbling, Shin Hyul. The blood vessels and veins on his face were about to burst with his anger as he kept yelling. Shin Hyul, Shin Hyul, Shin Hyul, damn it, Shin Hyul. He kicked the broken phone, screaming, That bastard. He continued to stomp on it to release his anger. Everything is all that bastard's fault. Lang Smith, who was passing by, said, Oh my, it seems you have a grudge against Hyul. Startled, he turned around, snapping, Mr. Smith. So what? Is it not allowed? He stepped forward, laughing loudly. Of course it's allowed. Liking or hating someone is your right, but Se-hyuk, he approached with a devious expression, proposing, Don't you want to get revenge on Shin Hyul? This statement made Se-hyuk surprised and confused. He intentionally continued. Isn't that what you want? Night fell over the academy dormitory. At this time, he was sitting, tapping on his phone, not touching the books next to his bed. Hyul was playing on his phone while thinking. After Baek Se-hyuk's incident, I can fight back, but, well, I actually benefited from this. Suddenly, his phone vibrated, receiving a new mail. According to the message, his family had come to negotiate with In-hyuk, the sender of the email. Father wrote, The negotiation with the Baek family has ended. In exchange for keeping silent about this incident, we received 3% of the Baek family's mining rights. He smiled mischievously when he read the last message. Well done. If you want a reward, just let me know. He thought of the growth of the families through the huge buildings they had. In order for the Baek family to get the title, they not only focus on the academy but also maintain good relationships with other prestigious families. If so, they must use special measures. The Baek family is doing it right, remembering that he was from a big family. After all, the victim of this incident was none other than himself, a direct descendant of the Shin family. Hyul looked at his phone, pondering. No matter the price, the Baek family wanted to handle this scandal, but this condition really emphasizes the importance of the title to a family. Then he analyzed. The title is a representation of a family's status. It's considered a symbol of the family. Like the mage of the mage family, or the mystic master of the mystic master family, this title defines a family's position. Then, he thought about Se-hyuk being angry when he was teased by him, which made him use magic. Baek Se-hyuk is basically banished from the Baek family because of this. With his skills, he won't be able to harm me. Hyul grabbed a book, sighing in relief. Now everything is settled. Forget about becoming Santa Claus. Focus on improving my cultivation skills. The next beautiful morning at the academy, the instructors appeared more often on campus. Hyul looked around, Has control over the instructors become tighter because of Baek Sa-hyuk's incident? Suddenly, an unexpected voice called out, Shin Hyul. He turned around, smiling gently. Hello, Mr. Smith. He clasped his hands behind his back, nodded, and then fell silent. He slightly narrowed his eyes, observing Hyul. Hyul still smiled awkwardly, saying nothing. He approached, pointing to himself. I've been noticing for a while now. Hyul, it seems like you don't like me very much. He happily responded but accidentally said, yes, that's right. No, I don't. He gave a fake smile, looking at Hyul, saying, I understand, before I said some harsh things to you. But those were all sincere advice, so please don't misunderstand me. Okay, confused by the sudden kindness, why is he suddenly acting like this? Okay, Smith smiled, reaching his hand out to him. Then from now on, why don't we start over? He awkwardly waved his hand. No, thank you. Teacher. Suddenly, something strange appeared in his mind. His pupils dilated, feeling an unusual discomfort. He wondered, what is this uncomfortable feeling? At the same time, Smith released a dark energy around his hand, saying, though it's late. Congratulations on achieving first place in the midterm exams, and I sincerely hope you find your own path. He was surprised when he realized, but he wasn't sure. Mana, right, but... The dark energy slowly enveloped Smith entirely. Hyul tried to regain his composure, assessing, magic, this troubling dark mana. He smirked, looking at Hyul, as if waiting for something. Hyul guessed, this mana, it's from the Black Tower. A tower full of sharp thorns with an ugly shape that was always surrounded by dark energy. The Black Tower, according to legends, unlike the 12 recognized towers, this was an unofficial tower, following a different path, a group of depraved criminals formed by a mage who called himself the Dark Mage King. He frowned, gritting his teeth, whispering, damn it, mister. Smith is connected to the Black Tower, thinking that he was setting a trap. That meant that there were also other mages in the school from the Black Tower. How? Since when? He regained his composure, looking at him as if nothing had happened. Then, he used his eyes to cast a spell. No, that's not important right now. First, I need to understand the magic formula to assess the situation. A series of images of charts and magic methods appeared before his eyes. After examining them for a moment, he realized, this magic formula looks familiar. This is mind control magic. He tightened his grip on his bag strap, looking at Smith's outstretched hand. Wait. Mind control, but my brain resists all external interference. So, then, he looked at Smith's dark mana. Mr. Smith's mind control magic is ineffective on me. Hyul closed his eyes, sighing inwardly. Thanks to that, I will survive this time. Thinking of the students and instructors nearby, they still haven't realized. So what should my next step be? He decided to close his eyes and use the pretend strategy, pretending to be affected by this technique, and dig up more information about the Black Tower. Ending his thoughts, he opened his eyes, but they were now empty. He watched, thinking that he had succeeded, and muttered, very good. He covered his mouth, hunching over and laughing. A disabled idiot who can't even use an AI chip, but he could make me apologize. Smith moved closer, whispering in his ear. Hyul, listen carefully. He handed him a card, ordering, from now on, always carry this with you. Also, don't ask why you have to carry it, that's all. He responded like a machine. Yes, but thought, that's all. Suddenly, he turned back, pushing up his glasses, a devilish look on his face, and Hyul, explain your transformation magic. Hyul was annoyed. This, I can't say, then pretended to be in pain, holding his head and yelling. Seeing him in pain, trembling, he guessed. It seems that the unconscious desire to keep your vision magic a secret is very strong. Okay, stop now. Hyul smiled, successfully luring him into the trap. Hyul thought of Smith using mind control magic. He analyzed it as a faulty system that accessed the brain of the person being controlled. It interfered with the target's brain, amplifying their emotions or controlling them as desired, a magic symbolizing the Black Tower. If a high-level mage used this magic, it could even cause the target's mind to collapse, turning it into an extremely dangerous forbidden magic. He thought about him using it on him just now and affirmed, and as I just saw, if a person affected by the magic has a strong will towards specific memories, trying to extract them can cause their mind to collapse. Seeing how easily he gave up, it seems that transformation magic is not the goal he's pursuing. He couldn't find out what he wanted. So he clicked his tongue. Smith looked frustrated, tapping his forehead. Your vision magic is not suitable for your position, so I tried to sell you off cheaply. TCH, well, I can't let this mission fail. He snapped his fingers. muttering, "Then, after the mission is over, I will take away your vision magic." Hyul pretended to be dazed as if just waking up from the spell. He spoke, "Hyul." Then, he pretended to ask, "Are you okay? You were distracted while we were talking. You must be very tired. I won't bother you anymore. Good luck." Hyul nodded quickly, replying, "Yes, I understand." Smith left, blending into the crowd. Hyul stood there, frowning, watching his footsteps. The school bell rang, signaling the end of the lesson. The students enthusiastically walked around, their voices intermingling. "I'm so hungry, let's go for coffee." Yesterday, at this time, the school campus was quiet. With no one around, he chose a bench to sit down, looking at the item he had given him. Hyul held it up, looking closely. "This is..." Then he connected everything, from the chip to what Smith gave him to keep. The illegal AI chip, EEL. EEL was a creatively upgraded chip. Giving this to me means their goal is to accuse me of being a user of illegal AI. He thought of the consequences. I might become the hot topic in newspapers and on TV. In the end, I will sink under a malicious smile with scandalous headlines. Hyul thoughtfully closed his eyes, rubbing his chin, thinking, they want to drag my image down. Professor Smith had no reason to harm me, though there was something bad between me and him. Then he guessed, but there must have been someone who asked the Black Tower to do this. If so, I can roughly estimate the scale of the situation. Thinking that Sahuk might be involved, Hyul, I will kill you. This mess was beyond the ability of someone under confinement. So, then he thought of Jahan, In-hyuk, and Minji. It seems it's one of my two brothers or two sisters. They want to tarnish my image and completely exclude me from the air competition. 4 people with clear motives. Hyul started the process of elimination. First, my older sister, Minji, is not actively involved in the air competition. She is not the one to do this. Next, thinking of the second person, my older brother In-hyuk is actively involved in the air competition, but he doesn't have the courage to do something this bold. Finally, he confirmed his target. Jihan, so, it's one of the remaining 2, or both of them. He clenched his fist, hesitant. Should I catch Mr. Smith and ask him? But he hesitated, thinking that Smith belonged to a place that couldn't be touched. No, the Black Tower is very sensitive to information. Smith might not even know who the real boss is. If I catch him, the information will be cut off. Right now, being cornered by the Black Tower is not good for me. He gave up and made another plan. So, it should be. The morning sunlight spread across the space, shining on the windows of the modern high-rise building. Hyul stepped into the elevator. Going up to meet the person with the most power here, Kim Kangan, knowing he was coming without looking up, spoke, "Hello, Hyul." Then, turning around, he asked, "So, what do you want to talk to me about?" He frowned. Looking at Hyul with a scrutinizing gaze, Hyul tightened his grip on the bag strap, stepping forward, thinking, the master of the Green Tower, Kim Kangan. He looks colder than usual. Hyul didn't take his eyes off him. Deciding, but, now is the time. Kim Kangan, seeing Hyul's worry, spoke, "I told you, don't think of yourself as a burden." Hyul looked at him, frowning uncomfortably, thinking about asking for help. It's either now or never. He was sweating profusely. As rumored, what is he researching that he is this worried? Unable to suppress his curiosity, he approached and asked, "Are you researching something?" He nodded. "Yeah, I'm researching a strange magic stone. It's taking more time than I thought." Hearing this, he looked towards the table. Magic stone, a crystal stone full of mana. That's an elemental manalite. Hyul smiled, looking at him. This is a rare opportunity. Kangan invited him to sit down and talk. Since we're both busy, let's get to the point. He smirked, resting his head on his hand, curiously asking, "Whatever you want to say, Hyul. It's so important that it can't be delayed, and you wanted to tell me personally." Hyul, seeing his excitement, suddenly started sweating. He's a bit excited. If this keeps up, no matter what I say, he won't listen. Then, gathering his courage, he got to the point. "Okay, then, let's negotiate. Before we get to the main topic, I have something to say to you." Hyul mentioned the stone on the table. The magic stone that the Tower Master is researching. It's an elemental manalite. It was like a thunderbolt, and he was shocked. Kangan became serious, sternly asking, "How do you know?" That name has never been revealed to the public, let alone its existence. He released a pressure, warning angrily, "Hey, you need to speak carefully." Hyul waved his hand. "I didn't plant any spies in the Green Tower or steal any information," he pressed. "Then how did you know?" Hyul opened his bag, rummaging through it. "The reason is very simple." Then, he took it out, showing it to him. "I have one too." He jumped up in alarm. This is." He held it up, confirming, Exactly, this is a perfectly crafted elemental manolite. Kangen, shocked and in disbelief, laughed loudly. How ridiculous! He thought of the top experts, the top magic engineers of the Red Tower, James Pillar, also known as the best magic stone creator in the world, even the elite craftsmen of our Green Tower, who are famous for their skills, and even myself, who is in the top 3 creators in the world. Then, he glanced at Yahello holding the stone. Couldn't craft this precious stone, but an ordinary third-year student can. Kangen confirmed again. Yahello, do you possess this magic stone, or was it just a coincidence? Yahello shrugged casually. That's right. I found that the Green Tower is the only place that can handle this magic stone. It's just a coincidence that I brought it. He looked intently, asking, Can I ask how you got it? Yahello modestly tried to conceal the truth. I have nothing to tell. I just happened to find it, and I was lucky to craft it. His eyes brightened as he got closer to Yahello. I told you, your luck is amazing, Yahello, he smiled awkwardly. Kangen leaned in, placing his hand on the table. Okay, mages have the right to keep secrets, turning his head to the side. He said, I won't force you anymore. Yahello sighed in relief. Thank you. He took out his glasses and gloves, proposing, Can I take a closer look? Yahello agreed generously. Of course, he carefully observed the stone. This is the only magic stone in the world that has all 4 elements at the same time. Then he returned it, asking, So, what is the purpose of bringing it here? Yahello boldly proposed, Okay, I want to use it to create an item. He took off his gloves. Glancing at him, An item? What kind of item do you want? Then, he listed what could be crafted from it. Clothes, decorations, or weapons. Yahello thought for a moment, nodding, anything is fine, as long as it enhances the elemental magic performance. He looked at the sparkling stone. I see, but Kangen hesitated, looking at him. Saying, high-grade magic stones also need high-grade materials, and the crafting fee will be quite expensive. Are you okay with that? Which made him confused. He suddenly remembered, bursting out laughing. I'm sorry, you're a descendant of a magic family. Right, so, your family will probably be able to pay for it, Yahello objected. No, that's not okay. Yahello signaled with his finger on his lips. This crafting process, I want to keep it secret from my family and everyone else. He laughed loudly again, then used his hand to draw numbers with magic. Yahello, you're really clever. So what about the crafting fee? 645 million. It'll probably be around that number. Turning his head to look at him, he confirmed. Can you pay without your family's help? Yahello waved his hand. No, but in return, he smiled confidently. I have another way. Yahello held out his hand, proposing an exchange. I will craft the elemental manolite right here in front of you, in front of the Tower Master of the Magic Tower. He was stunned, confirming. So, that means you will tell me the crafting method right now. Kangen looked up, enthusiastically praising. Nice, then it's more than enough to pay the fee. We'll even make a profit. Seeing him so happy, Yahello continued his attack. So, can I ask for one more favor? He smiled, turning back. What is it? Is it related to today's matter? Yahello hesitated, showing the chip. This, Kangen picked it up, examining it. This is a new generation upgrade chip, an illegal eel chip. Where did you get it? Yahello clenched his fist when he heard the question. He remembered Smith and said, A mage from the Black Tower at the Academy gave it to me. There's a Black Tower mage infiltrating Obelisk Academy. Please help me deal with them. That night, the bright moon shone through the passing clouds. He stepped out of a white car. Yahello peeked inside, and Jang Sua said, Be careful inside. Okay, he nodded in response. Take care. She glanced coldly. Yeah, we'll meet again soon. Then, she drove away, leaving him behind, still watching. Inside the dormitory, it was late, so the rooms were shrouded in silence. After showering, he jumped on the bed, stretching and yawning. Then, he recalled the stone he had seen with Kangen. I got lucky. I didn't expect Kim Kangen to be researching the elemental manolite. He chuckled mischievously. Thanks to that, I can keep it a secret from father while still crafting the item. Then he thought of Sihook being angry. Yahello, that brat. I can't let him off. And then thought, I was originally only planning to request 3% of the mining rights from BKGA, but I can keep it now. How great. After a tiring day, he was also dozing off, preparing to fall asleep, if everything goes smoothly. He returned to the time when they were still discussing things. Kingen wondered. It's too unbelievable. It's rumored that the security of Obelisk Academy is extremely strict. Thinking of a Black Tower mage sneaking in, and yet, there's a Black Tower mage hiding there. Then, he raised the chip, and the only evidence is this eel chip. He worried. Is it that hard? Kingen was silent, smiling mysteriously. Finally, he made a decision with a mischievous look. Usually, our green tower wouldn't act based on the suspicion of a student or unreliable leads, but it's okay. Let's take a gamble. Hyul was walking among the crowd while talking on the phone. A voice rang out from the other end. You've arrived, Hyul. He quickly replied, yes, so I'll rely on you to carry out the plan. Then, he walked towards the elevator in front of him. The phone showed a call with the master of the Blue Tower, Kangen, saying, don't worry. As long as the information is accurate, our Blue Magic Tower won't make any mistakes, Hyul. Standing in the elevator, tightened his grip, replying, yes, I believe you. So I'll contact you again later. Upon arriving, an employee quickly opened the door, respectfully welcoming him. Hyul gave a bright smile. I've arrived, looking at the table. Jihan, In-hyuk, and Minji were all present. He said politely, greetings, brothers and sisters. The second daughter of the Shin family, Shin Minji, interlaced her hands, smiling at him. Oh my, it's been a long time, Hyul. She immediately stood up, approaching him. He also cheerfully asked, it's been a long time. You haven't changed at all, she chuckled. Are you complimenting me? He quickly said, yes, of course. Minji reached up, measuring his height. Hyul, you've grown a lot. Soon, you'll be taller than In-hyuk, right? The second son of the Shin family, Shin In-hyuk, laughed, reaching out his hand. Minji, don't say those things. He placed his hand on Hyul's shoulder, beaming. Welcome back, Hyul. To be honest, it's hard to be completely happy, but, anyway, welcome. Hyul smiled awkwardly, replying, yes, thank you, big brother. Thinking, he's still as straightforward as ever, Minji turned, grumbling. Brother, why do you say such unnecessary things? In-hyuk was puzzled. Did I say anything wrong? Hyul was silent for a moment, then turned to say, it's been a long time. Looking at the remaining two, who were not friendly, he greeted, Brother Jahan, Sister Say-ah. The eldest son of the Shin family, Shin Jahan, smiled teasingly. You're not as chubby as a child anymore, you've become a man. The eldest daughter of the Shin family, Shin Say-ah, frowned, greeting him perfunctorily. Younger brother, long time no see. He also smiled socially, thinking, they're only smiling on the outside, but they clearly want to devour me. As expected, the culprits are here. He raised his glass, saying, let's eat and chat. I'm curious why our younger brother called us here. He slightly frowned, smirking. It's nothing special. After everyone was seated, he spoke. I just wanted to see you all after a long time, so I arranged this gathering. Say-ah. Hearing this, complained. What? You called us all here just for such a trivial matter? Hyul narrowed his eyes, smiling intentionally. Even if I didn't, Brother Jahan or Sister Say-ah would have anyway. Right, she slammed the table angrily, while In-hyuk remained silent, not daring to speak. What is it? I can't stand this brat, she pointed at his face, yelling. All right, just say it all. What's your plan, brat? Hyul acted innocent, not knowing anything. Huh? What do you mean by a plan? She was annoyed. Don't play dumb. Are you planning to participate in the air competition or not? He glanced around, assessing their reactions. If I said I'm not interested, would you believe it? She replied immediately. Without thinking. Who would believe that? He shrugged. Then why are you asking? Seeing herself being teased, she grumbled. You, that annoying brat. Jihan leisurely drank slowly, saying, Say-ah, you shouldn't say that. With a problem like this, words aren't enough. It has to be proven with actions. Then he pointed a not-so-good direction towards Hyul, and Hyul. I heard that you have acquired an impressive vision magic. It's called transformation magic, right? That magic. Can you share it with your family? Hearing his words, Hyul was suddenly shocked. He saw the deeper intention. Well said, by sharing the vision magic. It will prove that I'm giving up the air competition. But Say-ah, excitedly praised Jahan. Brother, that sounds good, but it's not a trick. After thinking for a moment, he sighed, preparing to perform. He showed an innocent, pure face like a flower, saying, Brothers, sisters, this vision magic is my only hope. His eyes were filled with sadness. For someone who's not suitable to be a mage like me, it's my only chance to live. I can't share it. It's not even related to the air competition. Minji was touched, wanting to cry, not noticing Jihan's blank face. It's okay. Then you don't have to say it. It's our younger brother's only hope. On In-hyuk's side, he was speechless about Hyul's brilliant acting. While Seo was shocked, Minji wiped his tears for him. Hyul, softly saying, Thank you for understanding me. In-hyuk burst out laughing. Interrupting this atmosphere, well, let's put this meaningless air competition aside. Why don't we chat and relax a bit, Minji agreed, turning towards Hyul. Yeah, I want to hear more of Hyul's stories. A little later, the food was brought up fully. Jihan and Se-ah were also happily chatting with each other, and Hyul, Minji, and Inhyuk were also laughing and talking lively. As time passed, the clock was about to reach 12 a.m. Hyul glanced at it, calculating. It's been a while, I should probably. Suddenly, a message was sent to his phone. From one to all, everyone received it, causing them to look at each other in surprise. Minji wondered, what's going on? Inhyuk looked at it, quickly saying, this is an emergency message. Se-ah frowned, confused. Right now, at this hour, only Jihan did not speak, but something seemed wrong. His mouth suddenly twitched, he frowned, looking worried. The content inside was as follows. Emergency news. A staff member of Obelisk Academy has been identified as a criminal mage with connections to the Black Tower. Lang Smith, the second son of the prestigious Smith family in France, has been arrested. The person who made the arrest is Jang Sua, a level 6 mage and secretary of Kim Kangan of the Green Tower. After reading it, he returned to his natural state, as if nothing had happened, quickly putting his phone into his pocket. Hyul saw this, smiling. I caught him, recalling his panicked face when he saw the message. He glanced, becoming even more certain. Shin Jihan, it's you, right? That night, the moon was still as bright as any other day. A voice came through his earphones. Well, it seems Hyul was right. He scrolled through the news on his phone. 10:32 p.m. Jang Sua, a level 6 mage and assistant of Kim Kangan of the Green Tower, discovered suspicious activities by Lang Smith at the Obelisk Academy training supply room. Lang Smith is accused of interfering with materials used for the survival test, and if Jang Sua hadn't happened to pass by the supply room, who knows what disaster could have occurred during Friday's test. The Korean government, the Korean Mage Association, and the International Mage Association declared that they will not ignore this intrusion of the Black Tower. He was walking while watching when Kangan spoke again. But, he asked curiously, how did you know Lang Smith would interfere with the training supplies? Hyul adjusted his earphones, casually replying, I only made a reasonable inference based on the intelligence I had. He remembered Smith showing off his dark magic, considering that Instructor Smith had infiltrated the academy. There was a high chance that he would act within the campus. Then the moment he analyzed his magic formula, and thought of the moment he used mind control on him, this week's schedule, the day he could act would be. Next he thought of the lesson and Smith's possibility to take action. Friday, the day of the survival test. If he wanted to uncover something during the survival test, he would have to touch the training materials. The usual supply inspection would take place the afternoon before the test, imagining the scene of him using magic on the puppets. So, the only time to interfere without being noticed would be. However, Jang Soo and everyone else discovered his clandestine actions. Tonight, Thursday night, Smith was surprised, stunned, and panicked. He thought, I already had the Green Tower monitoring the supply room. His final plan was the meeting with everyone to gather his siblings and find out the person behind the Black Tower. As expected, removing the threat by exposing Smith, we caught Professor Smith. Confirming that there is a spy from the Black Tower at Obelisk Academy, Professor Smith, he intentionally glanced at Jinhan. I also suspect the connection between Shin Jihan and the Black Tower. He smiled. Pleased with the result, I've completed the plan perfectly, gathering information without revealing myself. It was a perfect performance. However, he still had some regrets. The only regret is the relationship between Jen and Professor Smith. I couldn't get conclusive evidence, but I will eventually find it out if I continue digging deeper, Kangan excitedly called him. Telling him the good news, Hyul, this time I intended to help you, but in the end, I was the one who received help. The Green Tower's reputation has soared thanks to solving this case. Hyul chuckled when Kangan said, I will definitely return this favor. Then replied, I won't refuse. Hyul held the phone out, turning on the speaker. No, he said excitedly, I like your honesty. Okay, I'll wrap things up. Hyul removed his earphones, happily replying, yes. Thank you, be careful. A huge explosion in front of Hyul. After the smoke cleared, a figure was shouting his name. Shin Hyul, Shin Hyul, Shin Hyul, Shin Hyul. Sahyuk appeared, approaching Hyul, who was sitting on the ground, having just dodged the blast. He yelled, Die, you failure. Hyul frowned, seeing clearly, and was shocked. Beck Sahyuk. He laughed like a madman, casting a fireball at him. Hyul frowned, a red light flashing in his eyes. Too fast. Without hesitation, he mobilized his mana, resonance enhancement. Hyul released a large amount of swirling water, creating a water shield. He gritted his teeth, sweating profusely on his forehead, feeling each wave of mana flowing through his body, realizing that he couldn't hold out any longer. He slightly leaned to the side. Too strong. At this rate, the water shield won't hold. Adjust the water shield. Immediately, he dodged to the side, letting it pass by. The collision created a large explosion. The powerful shockwave spreading throughout the area. Its power was too great, sending him flying, hitting a nearby pillar. Yahello, feeling a sharp pain, looked at his burned hand. As expected, I couldn't avoid it completely. Sahuk looked at his own hand after the smoke cleared. This is the difference between our skills. He became even more insane, his eyes wide, drooling. Just try to crawl, even if you're just useless trash. Look at reality. Yahello sat, gritting his teeth, calling out, "Beck Sahuk." He looked at him for a while and felt that something was wrong, laughing maniacally. Red eyes. Wait, this guy. Something is very strange. His eyes are bloodshot. His fangs grew longer. His tongue was hanging out like an animal. His skin was also red. According to the description, he recognized this reaction, illegal stimulant. Berserk, thinking of the person who used this substance and the characteristics of this drug. It forces the mana circle to explode, causing blood vessels to burst, turning the user's appearance into a berserk, a blood-stained warrior. But more importantly, the user will fight to the death. He saw him like that and yelled, "Are you crazy?" Sahuk rebutted, lunging forward. "I'm crazy. No, I'm fine." Yahello struggled to stand, but still didn't take his eyes off him. Red mana, level 3 fire attack. He grabbed his hand, laughing maniacally, while alarms were going off all around. He struggled provocatively. "You idiot." He looked at him drooling, saying, "I told you, I'm normal. Actually, I've just returned to normal." Sahuk's pupils suddenly narrowed, laughing. "You're about to die." Then, he used his hand to cast a direct fire attack. Fire attack. Another explosion occurred, leaving only a thick black cloud of smoke. He was pleased, staring intently at Yahello. "Look at this bastard," seeing that Yahello was still alive on the ground. "Just coughing," he mocked. "You're still alive," Sahuk muttered, holding his face. "You've blocked my magic twice." Overwhelmed, his voice began to change, making Yahello confused. "Trash like you. You. How dare you?" Unable to keep his composure, he yelled. Suddenly returning to normal, he breathed out, "Well, it's okay." Yahello, panting, affirmed. As expected, erratic emotions. "It's definitely berserk." Then he fell back into misery, holding his face. But the illogical point is, he thought of the attack power from him, that magic force. In his mind, he kept wondering, even if he took a lot of berserk drug, he couldn't be this strong. Could it be, breaking the train of thought, he secretly manipulated his mana? "Should I check?" Sahuk glanced crazily. "Where are you looking?" "You little brat." Yahello stood up, manipulating spirit power, wind balls. He saw the bird-like winds coming towards him and muttered, "Little brat." Next, he created a wild fireball from his hand. "How dare you use that trash magic?" Yahello smiled softly. "I should have used it carefully." Without him realizing it, he had already moved below Sahuk, who was careless, but he didn't expect to fall into this situation. He frowned, his eyes bloodshot. "It's right underneath." He used all his strength, raising his hand, airstrike. He was shocked when the blinding light shone on him, yelling. Hearing the yell, he thought, "Got him," but he was unharmed, instead using his own move, fire mana. With this distance, he frowned, panicking, fearing he couldn't dodge in time. Fire gun. He was going crazy, aiming directly at him. Die. Yahello dodged while calculating. The characteristics of the fire gun are high firepower and close range, but its range is only 774 meters. If I run, it's still easy to avoid. He looked up at the sky, screaming, "Impossible!" Due to his precise analysis, he had dodged all of his fireballs. He breathed heavily, wiping his sweat, asking, "Do you hate me so much that you have to use the eel chip?" Sahuk created another blue energy, yelling, "Eel chip? What nonsense are you talking about?" He closed his eyes, sighing. "It's understandable that you don't remember." Then, he looked at the chip that was flashing purple behind Sahuk's neck. He gritted his teeth. "Why would I have to use it on a useless guy like you?" Next, he released spirit power like flying blades. "If you plan to say any more nonsense, shut your mouth and die." Yahello nimbly dodged the attack while explaining. The effect of the eel chip is to enhance the user's body, strengthen their magic structure, changing both the power and range of magic. Sahuk looked at him angrily. "So what, you bastard?" He continued to move quickly. "The funny thing is, I'm actually researching the change in the structure of the magic circle and mana, and the conversion of magic structures." Then, with his determined eyes, he said seriously, "Thanks to that, I'm very sensitive to the magical changes caused by mana enhancement and the exploding magic circle." I don't know if it's luck or bad luck, but I've also found clues thanks to this eel chip and berserk drug. Sahyuk, at this time, was not listening to a single word and kept yelling, "What the hell are you talking about? You bastard!" Hyo also didn't let it go, raising his hand to mobilize mana. "I'm not grateful to you. The fact that I can solve this is just a matter of time." Resonance. Hyul thought of the days he spent reading the Idrid book. Anyone who reaches this level will surpass their current realm. But, in the past few days, I've been constantly thinking while reading the Idrid book. He put his hand on his head, muttering, "The problem is the penalty, the increased penalty when combining different magic circles, putting pressure on both body and mind." He combined the two mana streams. The result of the penalty is the time limit. He thought of an hourglass flowing. If I reach level 2 magic circle and use resonance, the time limit is 3 minutes. He rotated the mana evenly around him, explaining, "After that for 12 hours, the mana circle can't move. I have to think carefully before using it." Sahyuk looked at him, laughing. "You're alone, so you're scared." Hyul closed his eyes, muttering, "The resonance time limit is 3 minutes, 3 minutes. Then, he crouched down, putting both hands on the ground, transmitting spirit power. "That's enough time." Earth tremor. Golden beams of light from the ground shot up like thousands of sharp thorns, causing the ground to crack. It pierced through Sahyuk's thighs, making him scream in pain. He narrowed his eyes in confusion. "That's level 3 magic. How can a piece of trash like you use level 3 magic?" Hearing this, he pointed to his head, narrowing his eyes mockingly. "How can I use it?" Sahyuk released fire again, begging, "You brat, just die." "Damn it," Hyul calmly said. "I've always thought this. You're not even good enough to be a fetus, let alone a mage. It's just nonsense." Then, he muttered, controlling. Water shield. A shield made of strong water blocked the attack. Seeing him use this move again, he scorned. "Damn it, you couldn't block it before. Now you're using it again." Burned to death. The flames he released were all swallowed by Hyul's vortex of water. Sahyuk was shocked, unable to believe what he was seeing. "What?" Hyul smiled, raising his hand to the sky, standing firm. "Understand before you open your mouth. If it were me, after seeing the earth tremor, I would realize that this water shield is different from the one before." It was his turn to mock him. "Your magic can't touch me anymore." His whole body trembled, furious. Shin Hyul, he frantically rushed towards him as fast as he could. "Now I understand." Sahyuk pretended to guess. "That's why you're strong now. You use stimulants or something. That's why you're so strong." Hyul closed his eyes, sighing. "It's over." His feet stepped into what seemed like a puddle. "I won't pity you. It's all your fault." Then it started to spread gradually. Darkness, murky. It flew behind Sahyuk, who was panicking. "What is this?" Hyul looked at him, saying, "If you hesitate when you want to kill me," before the darkness completely engulfed him, he regretted. Then things wouldn't have been like this. Sahyuk panicked, now surrounded by only the silent darkness, yelling, "Come out! Stop hiding! Shin Hyul! Stop hiding! Aim at me! Shin Hyul! Hyul!" Outside, muttered, ordering, "Earthbind, not tight." From above, many chains appeared, binding Sahyuk's limbs. He screamed, "This type of magic, binding." Under his feet, the ground tightened like a clasp. Hyul calmly said softly, "It's too late. The only mercy I can give you is to send you off peacefully." Hearing this, Sahyuk blamed him. "Don't talk nonsense. It's not over yet. If you hadn't appeared, my life would have." He put his hands in his pockets, brushing it off. "Do you think your life would have changed?" "I don't think so." Sahyuk struggled, yelling, "Where are you? Where are you? You bastard!" Hyul turned his head, continuing, "Then you would probably blame someone else anyway. And by the way," after a moment of silence, he spoke again, reaching out his hand towards the chip. "Do you know why people don't use illegal AI except for its side effects on the body?" He wondered. "What are you talking about?" His hand touched it, making him yell in pain. He raised his hand, with mana, smiling. "I just transmitted mana into the hot chip frequency. How is it? Even with the berserk effect, it's still painful, right?" He was teary-eyed, his tongue lolling out. "Stop it." Hyul laughed, transmitting mana again, making him feel even more pain. AI and the body are being forced beyond their limits. They can collapse at any moment, even with a slight touch. He suddenly thought of something, adding, "Finally, I'll say thank you." He smirked. "Because of your crazy actions. And you guys think you'll get something good from BKGA?" Hyul continued to provoke. "This time scale can't be compared to before. 30% of the mining rights. No, maybe 40% even." Sahyuk trembled, unable to speak. "You." Then, he got closer to his ear, raising his hand. "Goodbye, Bek Sahyuk. Thank you for being so generous." Once again, He transmitted a lot of mana into the chip. It couldn't handle it and exploded, and Sahyuk also died with it. Hyul broke the barrier, staring at his corpse. Then he picked up his phone that had fallen on the ground. He dialed a number, calling Shin In-hyuk. When he answered, he immediately said, "Father, this is Shin Hyul." He replied, "Why are you calling so late?" He was silent for a moment, his eyes glancing to the side, continuing, "I know everything." He noticed an eye observing from the bushes. No matter how late it was, it's also abnormal that no students or police appeared while such a big incident happened in the dorm. At this time, he was looking at the city, listening to what Hyul was saying. The students had probably all been evacuated. Shin In-hyuk, hearing this, rebutted, "You can't conclude that it was me just because I could stop the police." He chuckled. "Many people can stop the police from coming, but only you would watch until the end of the battle." Then, he thought of Jinya and say, if it were someone else, they would have jumped in halfway, even stabbed me in the back. Because of guardianship, my siblings also couldn't monitor me." He was amused with his reasoning, so he didn't beat around the bush. "You're right, with you." He glanced in surprise when that person moved. A foot in a tall black boot stepped out. A person wearing all black with a mask with 4 teeth, with red eyes, knelt to greet him. "Father had to send Sakhyun to follow you." While those on the side were assessing the situation with Baek Sahuk, Shin Hyul left to answer his phone. The person on the other end answered, asking, "Oh, you knew that I was watching you. So why didn't you ask for my help?" Shin Hyul had a bruise on his face. "I wanted to show father. Level 3 magic." Shin In-hyuk wasn't too surprised, saying, "I didn't think you'd reach it so soon, which means you hid the fact that you could use level 3 magic." Shin Hyul frankly admitted, "Yes, that's right," but in his heart, he knew, "Of course, that's a lie. I actually only used the resonance effect from a level 2 mage," thinking of his 2 siblings. Shin Hyul said, "I'm still not strong enough. If they know I can use level 3 magic." He smiled slyly, saying, "It would be hard to imagine the interference from my siblings," and Shin Hyul turned his head, looking at Sakhyun, who was respectfully kneeling behind him. Here, Sakhyun is using soundproofing magic and illusion magic to shield the surroundings. Shin In-hyuk couldn't help praising, "Not bad. I'll send a car, go home and stay for a night." Then, he looked at the phone as it gradually hung up. "Yes, thank you, father. I'll see you when I get back." At this time, the corners of Shin In-hyuk's mouth suddenly turned up into a strange smile. He laughed out loud, praising, "I don't know what you've been doing this past year, but your confidence is astonishing." After Shin Hyul hung up, he turned his head to look at Sakhyun in front of him. "It's been a while, Sakhyun." He then slowly took off his mask. Sakhyun frowned, greeting, "It's been a while, young Master Hyul, please allow me a moment." He worriedly went to Shin Hyul's side. "Your injuries are not light." Sakhyun immediately raised his hand. "Using healing magic, I'll use basic first aid. The rest will be taken care of by the family doctor." Hearing this, Hyul smiled appreciatively. "Yes, thank you." Immediately after, Shin Hyul turned to leave. "Then I'll leave it to you." He put his mask back on. "I won't let this get out." The scene shifted to a high-rise building. Shin Jahan angrily loosened his tie. "Damn it!" He stomped straight to the living room. "Why is this happening?" In the darkness, a mysterious person was waiting for Shin Jihan on the sofa, which made him extremely shocked. "Finally, it's over." The mysterious person kept complaining. "I thought I'd have to wait forever. And by the way, I really like this sofa." He was still shocked, looking at the person in front of him, asking, "You're from the Black Tower?" From under his hood, the mysterious person fiddled with his lip ring, smiling. "Put that aside. You were pretty unlucky. I didn't expect the Green Tower to mess everything up. Well, there's nothing more to say since you were caught before you could act." Shin Jahan, furious, slammed his hand on the table, yelling, "Is this really the time to laugh? Didn't you boast that you'd never fail?" He gritted his teeth, asking, "What do you want from me now?" The mysterious person laughed out loud, then quickly waved his hand. "I'm sorry. I laugh a lot. Anyway, the mission has failed, so I'll refund your fee. Of course, I'll take care of the aftermath." The mysterious person stood up, walking toward Shin Jihan. "You're a VIP customer, so you don't have to worry about the information getting out." As for Lang Smith, the mysterious person laughed, clenching his fist, affirming, "He won't live past tomorrow morning." He waved his hand, yelling, "His life is not my concern." That brat, Baek Sahyak, used the eel chip and berserk to attack Hyul. "What do you plan to do?" The mysterious person, hearing this, just said, "Oh," one hand pointed at his head, the other pointing forward. "Don't worry about that. That kid is already brain dead." Shin Jahan couldn't help but jump. "Brain dead? What do you mean?" remembering the scene when the two were fighting in the park. It seemed that he was only attacking Yahello. The mysterious person rubbed his hands, giving an excited smile. Now he's dying due to the side effects. He was annoyed, covering his mouth. I don't care. So what about Yahello? The mysterious person raised his hands, holding Shin Jihan's face. He was injured. But he left, which made him even more annoyed. Are you playing with words? The mysterious person gently denied. Oh, of course not. I'm just saying what I saw. Shin Jihan gritted his teeth when he understood. So that means, Yahello defeated Bek Sahayak, the one who used the eel chip and berserk. The mysterious person pointed his finger, praising. Correct, that's right. Well, not entirely. The mysterious person recounted the scene in the park when Bek Sahayak attacked. I don't know if it was to protect or monitor Shin Yahello. Sakhyun was also present, but Sakhyun was there. He also set up soundproofing magic and magic shield. He reacted pretty quickly. As soon as he noticed, the mysterious person quickly disappeared. I couldn't watch the fight till the end. It was very interesting. Shin Jihan began to be wary. Could it be a shadow guard? When did Sakhyun start following Shin Yahello? The mysterious person, on the other hand, wasn't too concerned. Well, I only saw Sakhyun after Shin Yahello said goodbye to our VIP client, so I don't know exactly. Thinking of Sakhyun and the people he was leading. Shin Jihan became more scared when he understood. Kim Sakhyun, the leader of the Shadow Guard, directly receiving orders from father. But why was he there? Why? He gritted his teeth, thinking. If it was the Shadow Guard acting, I need to be more careful. It seems like I'll have to temporarily avoid Yahello for a while. At this time, Shin Jihan asked, what do you plan to do with the eel chip that Yahello has? The mysterious person said casually, you don't need to worry about that either. Thinking of the black chip that slowly turned into fine powder, the eel chip I gave Shin Yahello has a self-destructing code. It will be destroyed, and it will soon turn into air. The mysterious person smiled, asking, any more questions? He turned his face away, denying, no. Then, Shin Jihan watched the mysterious person slowly retreat towards the window. Well, I'll take my leave. I need to deal with Lang Smith. The mysterious person jumped down below. Goodbye, customer. I'm off. He silently watched as the person completely disappeared into the space. Then, Shin Jihan turned around, going back inside. I have to make sure Sakhyun doesn't trace anything. I will delete anything that could be evidence. To do that, breaking through my own family's magic security system will be easy. The mysterious person, at that time, appeared hovering in the air, looking at the buildings below. I have to hurry. A few days later. At the school dormitory, Shin Yahello slammed the book in his hand shut. Then, he put the book on the table, stretching, thinking of the scene when Jiang Suo was shocked to discover Lang Smith's corpse. Today, the Green Magic Tower Master said that Lang Smith suddenly clutched his chest and died while being taken away. Shin Yahello, bored, rested his head on his hands. He frowned, thinking, I was looking forward to it, but it turned out to be so anticlimactic. There's nothing more to say. Sakhyun also took care of Bek Sahayak. Suddenly, Shin Yahello saw the phone on the table unexpectedly vibrate. A message was sent by father, with the content, the negotiation with Bekga is complete, in exchange for keeping silent about this matter. I received 43% of the mining rights for magic stones. Well done. Thanks to that, we won't face any financial shortages for overseas projects. If you want anything, think carefully. He smiled helplessly as he read the message. Father sent it all at once. He must be very pleased. Huh? Outside the window, the sunlight shone into the room. Okay, anyway, I'm happy that everything went smoothly. Shin Yahello stood up, looking at the phone. Now, for the remaining matter. He grinned as he saw the announcement, the great battle of the top mages gathering at the highest level. The competition will take place in 53 days, the Academy Olympiad, which excites the whole world. The Academy Olympiad is a prestigious event where the strongest students from magic academies around the world gather to compete. And this year, the fierce competition is about to begin. Shin Yahello looked at his phone happily. Father must be pleased, huh? I didn't expect him to give me so much information at once. Looking at the information displayed, he said. Okay, anyway, I'm very happy that everything is going smoothly. Shin Yahello grinned, saying, the only thing left is the Academy Olympics. Suddenly, he felt a source of power enveloping his body. Shin Yahello clenched his fist. The 12-hour resonance penalty is over. He closed his eyes tightly, feeling the energy. Now I need the level 3 magic circle. The book automatically flipped open. Shin Yahello grabbed the book, using his strength to flip through the pages. Let's turn the page for the test. Immediately after, he was sucked into the book again. Shin Hyul raised his hand to shield his face from the light. He was now standing in a white space. What's this? This white space? Is it another world inside the book? Suddenly, a figure appeared, making Shin Hyul turn his head in surprise. Beta gradually emerged from the void. Welcome to test number 2. She tilted her head, introducing herself. I am Beta. I am the evaluator of this test. Hearing this, Hyul swallowed. Test number 2. I wonder if it's the same as last time. Shin Hyul couldn't help thinking of Alpha, whom he had met before. I wonder if it's the same as last time. Perfectly crafting the elemental manalite, Beta gently explained. In this test, the successor will be evaluated based on their ability to handle the magic circle as they desire. She also added, details will be announced when the test begins. If you pass, pages 32 to 81 containing information about level 3 magic will be updated. Shin Hyul exclaimed in shock, this is crazy. He clenched his fist, determined, updating from page 32 to 81. I thought I would only read 10 more pages this time. It's okay. But Shin Hyul also realized, but that means the level 3 magic circle is also in a different realm. It's probably even more advanced than the approval and resonance rings. I feel both excited and scared. Immediately after, Beta put her hand on her chest and declared, then, let's start the test right now. Shin Hyul stood there, watching her gradually disappear into the air. Suddenly, he heard a voice echoing, my disciple. Now I will announce the content of the second test. Shin Hyul immediately recognized this voice, Master. He saw a magic circle appear from the air. From now on, 100 magic circles will appear one after another. Activate them all. Shin Hyul immediately raised his hand towards the magic circle. The magic circle suddenly changed. He was still raising his hand towards it, listening to the voice teach. Once the circle merges with the other circles, it will activate naturally. Shin Hyul was shocked, his mouth gaping. Why did it change? The magic circle flashed and gradually disappeared. The activation time for each circle is 3 seconds. If you fail during that time, you will have to start over, so be careful. He could only lower his head and smile, thinking. So I just need to remember. The voice continued to remind. Also, the order of the circles will change each time. Don't use tricks like memorizing. Shin Hyul now understood. That's right, it's not that easy. Then, he closed his eyes. Okay, Shin Hyul smiled, reaching out his hand towards the magic circle. Let's just try it. Sunlight shone around the city. Inside the dormitory, it was silent. A shadow fell over the closed book. Shin Hyul's face was pale, showing immense fatigue. He leaned against the desk, sighing. 8 hours, and I only managed to activate a maximum of 10. Shin Hyul reluctantly held the book in his hand. Well, the good news is that I'm gradually understanding it. But, relying on tricks alone, it's difficult to complete. I probably have to find more clues. Although night had fallen, he was still sitting on his bed, reading intently. Shin Hyul was reading and frowning, writing notes in his notebook. Suddenly, the text in the book spoke. The book I wrote is not just the Idrid book. If you encounter obstacles, look for my other books. It will definitely help you. Shin Hyul was shocked. So the Idrid book isn't the only one. So there will definitely be times when I have to find the others. He thought of the book that hadn't been found. I don't even know what it's called or where it is. Morning in the city. Shin Hyul put his hands in his pockets, walking into a convenience store. I have to go out for some fresh air. I need to change the environment a bit. As soon as he stepped inside, it was also the moment Adela Starett left the store. I'll pay. Shin Hyul called out, Adela, making her startle. Hyul, a little later. Both were sitting on a long bench. He held a can of coffee, smiling. We meet so randomly. Adela Starett held banana milk, replying happily, yeah. Shin Hyul also noticed. You look like you just pulled an all-nighter. She awkwardly covered her face, turning away. You too. Then he saw Adela Starett holding out a book, asking, I'm reading this thesis. It's really good. Do you want to read it? Holding the book, they discussed it. It's called The Feasibility of Space Teleportation Magic. This, It looks like a bootleg document. Adela Starett's eyes sparkled. Yeah, I know. But just try reading it, which made Shin Hyul confused. Okay. Why so enthusiastic all of a sudden? He gently moved his hands, reading each word. While he was reading intently, she was happily drinking her banana milk beside him. The number of milk cartons gradually filled the bag. Shin Hyul then smiled, returning the book. It's good, Adela Starett happily accepted the book. Right, he affirmed. Yeah. After that, they both looked disappointed. But it doesn't have a conclusion. Suddenly, Shin Hyul realized something. He suddenly saw a small line left by the author. This thesis is based on the book left by Ray Bell-Beitner. Analyzed by myself, Adela Starett was confused when she saw Shin suddenly startle Ray Bell-Beitner. He reached out, carefully reading the line he had just seen. I knew it, the structure of this book is a bit different. But, Shin compared the two books, still has Beitner's style. Many parts have similarities with Beitner's basic theories, pretty shallow and hollow though. Immediately after, he asked, Adela, who is the author of this book? She hesitated for a moment. Huh? Oh, then Adela Starett said a name, Go Sang-jun. When he returned to his room, Shin immediately used his computer to search for information. He rested his chin in his hand, muttering, Go Sang-jun, a magic researcher but not affiliated with any organization. His age and gender are very mysterious. He intently read what was in the book, thinking. The only document he published is what I just saw. He must have been severely criticized and disappeared. He held the piece of paper in his hand, guessing, could it be that an ordinary student would only know this much? Then Shin reached for the phone on the table. But, he smiled, calling someone. Ah, hello. The phone connected to a strange number. Hello, Green Tower Master. Shin understood. I'm not an ordinary student. At the Green Magic Tower, a tower distinguished by its large blue glass panels that were truly striking. In the quiet space, the ringtone of a phone suddenly rang. As soon as he saw the other end pick up, he immediately took the initiative to speak. Hello, this is Shin Kang Jin. Hearing his voice, asked lazily, what's up? He had been researching all night, so he wasn't in the best of spirits. Hyul didn't want to beat around the bush, directly mentioning the main issue. I have something that's beneficial for both of us. As soon as he heard the first sentence, Kangin's eyes widened in surprise, his mind instantly regaining alertness. On this side, his expression also became extremely serious. Could you help me find someone? At the same time, at the magnificent Obelisk Academy. Specifically inside the Academy's training room, Hyul was also training here. As soon as he swung his hand, a stream of spirit power immediately appeared. His opponent in this training session was Sun Chan. He couldn't help but wince while resisting one of his attacks. Hyul, taking advantage of Sun Chan's distraction, attacked directly. His attacks were spread out in multiple directions, shaped like swallows flying in the wind. Unable to fight back, he resorted to acting like he was being bullied, saying loudly, Hey, that guy, Hyul, you, that's cheating. Hyul still had a cold expression, as if nothing had happened, asking in a deep voice, Cheating, what's wrong? It's just a level 1 spell. Is there a problem? Sun Chan looped around in the air, still complaining. You heartless bastard, where's the fairness? It's just a level 1 spell. He had just dodged some of the swallows when he saw others flying toward him again. His expression grew increasingly more strained. Once he had managed to break apart all the swallows that Hyul was attacking with, he saw that Hyul was smiling on the opposite side, and he let out a soft "oh." He only dared to believe that he had succeeded when he was sweating a lot from resisting those attacks. While Hyul was laughing with excitement, saying, See, you blocked them all. He was so exhausted that he couldn't breathe. I almost died. Yet, he had no intention of stopping. Challenging Hyul again. All right. Let's have a one-on-one fight. How about it? Since he wasn't afraid of anyone, he immediately agreed, I'm in, but you think you can win against me in close combat, in this confrontation. Sun Chan seemed very confident, which was why he was so excited. It's my time to shine. Who knew that before he had even smiled for 3 seconds, he saw Hyul right in front of him, grabbing his collar. In the next second, he was lifted up and slammed down onto the floor. Hyul's attack speed just now was too fast and too dangerous, making the other students there widen their eyes. The familiar smug smile appeared again on Hyul. How's that? He looked at Sun Chan, who was sprawled on the ground, and didn't forget to joke, not bad. Either, he could only worry about his ribs right now. At this point, Hyul also had a reminder for him. In a one-on-one fight, the advantage of variable magic is gone. Only the power of level 2 circles is fighting against level 3 circles. Smart strategy. The more he spoke, the more Sun Chan got angry. Are you praising me or insulting me? It's so unfair. After the recent sparring, he had to go use the back massager, and he had to admit that Hyul's magic power was like cheating and his close combat skills were just as terrifying. Sun Chan was still unsatisfied. Grumbling, you're such a dirty fighter. Hyul, on the other side, casually slapped the back patch onto him, laughing while teasing, if you don't like it, just train more. Suddenly, Sun Chan asked a rather unrelated question. Ah, do you have any plans now? Seeing that he was confused, he added, Isn't your goal to be the champion of the Academy Olympics? Hyul's eyes clearly showed the word surprise when he heard him accurately state his goal. How did you know? It was rare that he had the upper hand over him. So Sun Chan said proudly, I know you too well. You can't hide anything from me. That's why you went crazy during the monostone shield test just now, right? He had actually observed him very carefully, knowing that normal students could block 27. But he had blocked 74. According to Sun Chan's assessment, with training like this, he should be #1 in all categories. It was rare to see him seriously give advice to someone like today. If you want to fight against the seniors, it's probably the best choice for you right now. While he was just standing there, stunned, listening to him. Anyway, with your current physical condition, I think it will be difficult to win the Olympics, right? Seeing him smile like that, Sun Chan knew he was right. I knew it. He also specially reminded him. Also, the most popular person this year is a level 5 mage. With your level 2 magic, it's impossible. His words made Hyul suddenly fall into deep thought. Sun Chan is right. To win the Olympics. The image of that magic book appeared in his mind. Of course, with resonance, I can still use level 3 magic, but it's not very different. To face them, I need to at least reach level 4. Thinking about this, Hyul knew what he needed to do. To do that, I have to find Go Sang-jun. After searching for a while, he had reached the red dot on the map, but he couldn't help but be confused by the scene before him. Where is this? Kangen on the other end, replied leisurely. First of all, I apologize for taking so long to find him. I didn't expect that finding a person would take a whole week. This is also my first time. It turned out that reaching this house was due to his guidance. To get to the main point, Go Sang-jun's current location is. Before he could finish, Hyul's eyebrows suddenly furrowed as he realized, wait, isn't this the old bookstore that I often visit? He really couldn't believe that he was here. This was beyond his imagination, right under my nose. Who could have imagined that this person would be at a store near the academy? Speaking of Hyul's fate with this bookstore, after realizing I wasn't suited for AI magic, I have always been searching for magic knowledge from old magic books and old books. I've always been curious where Idrid's cipher came from, but a feeling of doubt towards those magic books arose in his heart. Could it be that it originated from here? Anyway, he had to confirm to know. Hyul gently opened the door, speaking softly, excuse me. The old man with white hair, who was rummaging through the bottom shelf, stopped curiously when he heard a voice. He quickly recognized Hyul. Hyul, it's been a while. Hyul also politely greeted him. Are you doing well, sir? Go Sang-jun's father gave a gentle smile, replying, of course, I heard that you know how to use magic now. You also look healthier now. Hearing the praise, he said modestly, it's all thanks to you, sir. They chatted back and forth very closely. I didn't do anything. I only sold you books. It was those books that helped you. Thank you, sir. After exchanging pleasantries, I'm just asking. I thought that was true. Why did you come here today? As he said that, Hyul's expression suddenly became extremely serious. Sir, may I see Go Sang-jun, your son? Hearing this, he asked hesitantly, why are you looking for Sang-jun? Oh, no. How do you know Sang-jun? He quickly explained, I read the thesis he wrote. I have something to ask, so I investigated a bit. He paused for a few seconds before continuing. I heard he's here. I'm sorry if my actions were a bit nosy. Go Sang-jun's father, although he was a little hesitant with his request at first, a thesis. Oh, yeah, there's something like that. But he finally agreed. Okay, I'll let you meet him. Hyul was happy to hear this, quickly bowing his head. Thank you, sir. But, his next words made him frown. Even if you meet him, you won't get an answer. Huh? Hyul quickly asked the reason for his statement. What do you mean, sir? He only saw him walk over and open that door. Follow me. Then he spoke some confusing words. Sang-jun is in here. Hyul slowly followed him inside. Come in. This is his room. When he witnessed it with his own eyes, the scene in front of him made him extremely horrified. Go Sang-jun. The sound of a door opening rang out. Go Sang-jun's father's hand was still on the doorknob. His face, turned toward Shin Hyul, was somewhat stern. Follow me in here, he continued. Sang-jun is inside. There was another door inside. This place was absolutely secure. He was carefully unlocking it. Shin Hyul stayed close behind. The door opened. Shin Hyul felt a bit tense. Go Sang-jun's father turned his head to look back at Shin Hyul with a serious expression, saying, come in, this is Sang-jun's room. Looking at the scene inside the room, Shin Hyul was stunned. His eyes clearly showed surprise, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. He asked in shock. Go Sang-jun. Inside was Go Sang-jun lying on a hospital bed, his lips dry, still wearing an oxygen mask. The only sound in the room was the operation of the medical equipment. He was still receiving an IV drip. Go Sang-jun's father and Shin Hyul stepped inside. Inside, only Go Sang-jun lay on the hospital bed. surrounded by medical equipment. His face was visibly gaunt, his eyes were dark and sunken, showing signs of fatigue. Looking at Go Sang-jun, Shin Hyul was clearly surprised. As if he couldn't believe his eyes, he said, "This man, Go Sang-jun's father, standing beside him, seemed to understand what he meant, and replied firmly, 'Yes, my son, Sang-jun.'" The two sat beside Sang-jun's bed. Shin Hyul was full of curiosity. He asked, "Can I ask what happened?" Go Sang-jun's father nodded in agreement, saying, "Okay." He looked at his son, who was lying on the bed, barely breathing, saying, "Sang-jun," he continued, "broke the greatest taboo." His face was extremely serious, and the atmosphere was a bit tense. As he continued, "Of a mage," Shin Hyul asked, "Taboo? Which one, sir?" Go Sang-jun's father explained calmly. "When performing mana circulation, he violated the greatest taboo of a mage, which is circulating mana into his brain." Hearing this, Shin Hyul was startled, his face showing clear panic. He remembered the scene when he was floating in the air, circulating mana into his brain, and thought, "What? Circulating mana into the brain? That means what I did." He clenched his fists, asking tensely, "Why? Why did he do that?" Go Sang-jun's father seemed to recall something, replying, "It was necessary." He remembered the image of his son from before, thinking, to establish the theory of that thesis, the one that completely collapsed halfway. He said there was no other way than to circulate mana into his brain. Then he looked at his son lying on the hospital bed, regretfully saying, "I should have stopped him at all costs." Shin Hyul looked at Go Sang-jun's exhausted face, curiously thinking, "This man, how close did he get to a high-level type of magic?" Go Sang-jun's father frowned, looking into the distance, saying, "Anyway, I'm sorry, I can't satisfy your curiosity. Sang-jun would probably be very happy to talk to you." At this time, Hyul was still caught up in the tense emotions. He lowered his head, responding, "It's okay, I'm sorry for bringing this up. I've stirred up unpleasant feelings for you." Go Sang-jun's father seemed to understand Hyul's meaning. He put his hand on his shoulder, comforting him, "It's okay, don't worry. I know you're very diligent and really care about books." He happily recalled the scene from before when he was enthusiastically looking for books, saying, "You were always looking for magic books," which reminded me of Sang-jun. "And it made me very happy." Outside, the sky seemed to have darkened. The sunlight was also gradually disappearing. At this time, only a few remaining rays of the setting sun remained, turning a golden hue. Without knowing how, the two had moved to another room. Shin Hyul stood in front of Go Sang-jun's father, speaking solemnly, "Sir, if possible, could I take a look at the book that your son used for his research?" Go Sang-jun's father rubbed his chin, thinking. Then he said, "You mean Sang-jun's book? Okay. It's better to have them go to someone who needs them rather than them being left to rot." Then he continued to give a condition, saying, "But I have two requests." Hyul's face showed a bit of surprise when he heard that. He continued, "If you read his books and write an article about spatial magic, can you write Sang-jun's name in it? Even if it's just once." Hearing this, Shin Hyul immediately agreed, responding, "Of course, sir, I will definitely do that." Go Sang-jun's father was immediately satisfied. He pointed his index finger, saying, "Good. And the second is," he seriously taught, "no matter what, you are never to recklessly circulate mana into your brain." Hearing this, Hyul was startled. He flinched, but still replied, "Yes, sir, I promise I won't." Hearing his satisfactory answer, he led Hyul into another room, saying, "Okay, these are the books that Sang-jun researched." He walked around the room, looking for the book, muttering, "And the book that you need." Meanwhile, Shin Hyul also went to explore the room, suddenly discovering something on the bookshelf. On the shelf, a dark brown book was extremely prominent among the other books, which made Hyul pay attention, thinking, "That book has something." Suddenly, that book moved, leaving the shelf. It suddenly fell to the ground, startling Hyul. Looking at it on the ground, Hyul couldn't stop thinking about the Idrid book. "It looks like the Idrid book." He held the book in his hand, saying in shock, "Sir, this book is..." Hearing his call, Go Sang-jun's father also turned to look. Seeing the book, he immediately recalled the figure of his son, holding the book in his hand, as if it was very important, saying, "That one, it's the one that Sang-jun always carries with him, as if it's very important." He continued, "Read it. What you are curious about is probably all in there." Hyul held the book carefully. He responded, "Ah, yes." He opened the book. Inside were all pages filled with writing. Shin Hyul thought, as expected, the handwriting is so bad. The more he looked, the more shocked he was, thinking in surprise, It's master's handwriting. He held the book tightly in his hand, asking, Sir, can I take this book home to read? I'll borrow this one. Go Sang-jun's father smiled, responding happily. Just take it. If you need any other books, just take them too. Hyul, standing opposite him, held the book tightly in his hand, responding, thank you very much, sir. Then he said, Are there any other books written like this? He rubbed his chin, thinking thoughtfully. Then saying, I'm not sure. Hearing his answer, Hyul, while thinking about the book he had just found, said, Then, have you ever seen a red book with an expensive look? Go Sang-jun's father immediately replied, I don't remember seeing any book like that. My small bookstore rarely has books like that. Hearing this, Hyul wondered, then how the hell did Go Sang-jun get that book? As if realizing something, he looked at the book in his hand, saying, I understand. Thank you, sir. He was lost in thought. If so, what the hell happened? How did the Idrid book get in my bag? The sky outside was now shrouded in darkness. The entire city was in darkness, with only a few small apartments emitting a dim light from their electrical lamps. Hyul was sitting on his bed with 2 books, staring intently at them, crossing his arms, thinking, I researched Sang-jun's work, but only one book is similar to the Idrid book. But then he picked up both books, smiling triumphantly, saying, But, it's still better than not finding anything. Suddenly, the 2 books in his hand seemed to have an electrical current linking them, making Hyul very surprised. He exclaimed in shock, what's going on? Thinking, both books are glowing. Suddenly, the book he had just found opened up, emitting a series of blinding lights. And along with it, a voice rang out, I have left this book for the rightful successor of the Idrid book. Following that, Hyul seemed to be pulled into the page, and he said in panic, Hey, I'm being pulled in again. The book continued to ring out. This book is called the Book of Mimir. Hyul was shocked once again, thinking, Master's voice, I'm being pulled into the book again. The voice from the book still echoed, Enjoy the blessings of knowledge from the bottom of your heart, saying that. He was immediately completely sucked into the book. He was pulled into a large room. Hyul sat up slowly, looking around him, asking in confusion, where am I? Suddenly, a little girl wearing a puffy dress appeared from nowhere. Her small hand gently touched his neck. As a reflex, Hyul turned his head, only to have the girl's index finger poke his cheek. He softly said, The little girl with intelligent-looking ruby-red eyes and short platinum blonde hair smiled mischievously, saying in a teasing voice, Wow, found you. Welcome to the Book of Mimir. A gentle voice echoed as Hyul opened the book. This book is called Mimir's Cipher. Enjoy the blessings of knowledge from the bottom of your heart. It very quickly opened another space, pulling Shin Hyul into it. When he vaguely woke up, he was surprised. Where is this? He didn't notice that someone had quietly appeared behind him. The girl gently touched the back of his neck with her fingertip. Startled, Hyul quickly turned his head to see what it was, accidentally touching her hand with his cheek. Mimir seemed very amused, although this was the first time she had met him. Found you. Welcome to Mimir's Cipher. Hyul was still confused. Who are you? The little girl, seeing him ask about her, smiled, introducing herself. I am Mimir. Mimir's eyes lit up as she said that. Her voice was filled with pride. The manager of this place, Mimir's Well. She proactively reached out her hand, making an introduction. It's nice to meet you, successor. Hyul, still very confused about this new location, asked. Mimir's Well, the little girl calmly explained. That's the name of this library. She added, This is the library that Ray Bell Bytainer prepared for his future successor, a library exclusively for Bytainer's successor. He was truly learning about this place for the first time. I didn't think it would be that significant. Looking at the high dome, Hyul felt that calling it a library was still a bit small. Then, Mimir explained in more detail about its function. It's because your achievements are still few, at Mimir's Well. The scale will change depending on the level of the successor. With her experience, and having seen this size, it seemed that he hadn't passed the second trial yet. I'm right, aren't I? Mimir was indeed very insightful, guessing correctly with one try. That's right. Suddenly, the little girl's expression changed unexpectedly. She frowned, saying, May I ask, can we talk normally now? Hyul was confused when he heard her say this. Mimir's point was, since they would often meet, it would be awkward if they kept speaking formally. Let's just be comfortable with each other. Hyul had no problem with this, agreeing happily. Okay, let's do that. Since he had said that, the two of them could drop the honorifics. Mimir said casually, Great, that was enough for introductions. Now she wanted to ask him, the successor, You're quite talented. You've already reached the second circle and found me so quickly. The truth was, Yahello was also as confused as she was. I don't understand why finding you is a good thing. So she explained to him. It means that you can progress smoothly without any problems until level 5. Hearing this, Yahello couldn't hide his shock, exclaiming, Level 5, how is that possible? To help him understand more clearly, Mimir directly used magic to take a book down from the shelf. She very quickly took it down without any effort. Here, Mimir handed it back to him, wanting Yahello to understand for himself. Read it, and you'll understand. He quickly took it from her. As soon as he opened it, the title caught his eye. This is a detailed theory about resonance. With Mimir's guidance on the opposite side, this place is filled with information that doesn't fit with the Idrid cipher, just like the book you're reading. Hearing this, he had another question. Why aren't all these books in the Idrid cipher? Mimir, upon hearing his question, couldn't help but praise. That's a great question. The reality was, it was due to the overload from the trial pages, with too much content to verify the successor. For many reasons, only the necessary information was saved in the Idrid book, so the Mimir Well add-on was created. Understanding her explanation. So, you mean that my master recorded the details in the Mimir Well? He was beginning to understand. That's right. If Idrid is a summary guide, this place can also be seen as a textbook or reference book. Now, Yahello understood. His gaze gradually shifted to the large bookshelves, asking in a low voice, So, all the books here are filled with this kind of dense information, and as my achievements increase, so will the number of books. Mimir, on the opposite side, replied playfully, Exactly. So, do you know how to reach the 5th circle now? Definitely. Of course, with this, I can easily pass the second trial. The book was opened as such. Each page of the book took him to a different training circle. Yahello's eyes closed slightly. Currently, he had completed 79 circles, remembering before, synchronizing 100 magic circles in Trial 2. First, it took him 8 hours to complete. The results had changed significantly, but since he had met Mimir's Well, he could handle 79 at once. It had been a long time since a satisfied smile had appeared on Yahello's face, because recently, everything he did was really difficult, but after today, it was different. At this level, he was confident that he could complete 100 circles, at the earliest before tonight or at the latest before tomorrow. Getting the Mimir book before the Olympic exams is really a blessing. He was grateful for that, escaping from the space of the Mimir book and returning to the real world. Inside Yahello's magnificent mansion, he slowly followed the maid in the long hallway, to go see his father. He still didn't understand why his father had called him. Could it be to reward him for the Bek Sahuk incident? As soon as this thought appeared, the image of that day immediately flooded into his mind. The scene where Bek Sahuk lay motionless at his feet. Although he was a bit reluctant to go see him, there was nothing he could do. I was planning to spend the whole day in Mimir's Well after school. Why is it now? But it's still important, the maid, from the outside, softly said. Master, Mr. Yahello is here. Enrollment. Hearing this, replied in a deep voice, Come in. As soon as Yahello saw him, he couldn't avoid feeling tense. Father, Enrollment, with no specific expression, said coldly, Sit down. I'll get straight to the point. He sat opposite him, saying, Unlike last time, this time you didn't contribute 100%. It can't be denied that you contributed more than half. His tone when speaking to him was no different than when speaking to a subordinate. Combining with last time, your share of the monostone mining rights is 26%. Yahello also didn't have any objections to his arrangement, replying softly, Yes, however, Enrollment wouldn't let him suffer. You have brought us great profit, so you deserve to be rewarded. He didn't want to impose, but proactively asked for his opinion. Is there anything you want? Yahello, on the opposite side, like him, had no reaction in his eyes, replying in a low voice, Yes, there is. Not hesitating to tell him about the reward he desired. I want the ancient relic that is kept deep in the family's vault. Enrollment's face showed a slight change when he heard him say that. An ancient relic, okay. You don't believe in those fictional stories about secrets hidden within ancient relics, do you? They're just antiques. On this matter, he had a different opinion than him. No, I don't think so. I'm not interested in the legends about ancient relics. I believe even myths hold some truth. Hearing this, Enrollment couldn't help but sigh. You're still young, believing in those far-fetched stories. But, if that's your choice, I will respect it. But you can only take one item. Receiving his approval, Yahello couldn't hide his happiness. Yes, thank you, father. Enrollment also asked directly, So which ancient relic do you want? And he honestly shared with him, Yes, I want the one in the family's treasure vault. Yahello had been aiming for it from before. The one that was carefully displayed in a glass case. The item that he wanted was Raybel Bytainer's cloak. At the Shin magic family's treasure vault, Inhyuk received a cloak box that the butler respectfully brought him. He gave it to Hyul, his eyes containing both sternness and expectation. He didn't forget to instruct, "Please, I hope you won't regret this choice." Hyul took the box, his eyes firm, and replied confidently, "Yes, thank you, father." Inhyuk slightly frowned, his voice becoming deeper. "To believe in something as foolish as that, you're really still too young." His voice became more serious. "Practice diligently so that you don't regret it later. If you want to turn back," Hyul smiled, "it's okay, sir." After receiving the item, he quickly got into the car and went back. In the car, Hyul pondered, "Most of the ancient artifacts that our family possesses are real." He glanced at the box lying quietly beside him. Ryubal Beitner's cloak. Hyul chuckled softly. "If this is really my master's cloak, then a 30% share of the mana stone mining rights is nothing." "Wait, but is this really my master's cloak?" He leaned over, opening the box, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "What if it's a fake?" As soon as he picked up the cloak, Hyul exclaimed in shock, "Isn't this pure mana thread?" To explain briefly, mana thread, a superior technique where mana stones are refined and stretched into threads through crafting technology. Around the world, there are less than 30 artisans who can handle mana threads. This isn't something that uses just a portion of pure mana thread. But this whole cloak is made entirely of mana thread. Hyul caressed the cloak, nodding in admiration. Furthermore, how could such advanced technology have existed in that era? Compared to this, the mana thread artifacts produced recently are nothing like this. "Right, I've never seen anything like it," he laughed out loud, still unable to believe that he had been given it. Very quickly, Hyul had returned to his building. He was sitting on his bed, still excitedly researching the cloak. Suddenly, Hyul discovered a signature on the bottom of the cloak. He pouted, chuckling. "And this terrible handwriting, it's definitely my master. I see it every day, so I'm used to it." When he opened the cloak, he was even more shocked. "But what is this? The inner and outer layers are reversed." Hyul rested his chin, thinking. Another reason why mana threads are difficult to handle is that the inner and outer layers have to be structured differently. The inner layer is designed to enhance mana transmission and efficiency, and the outer layer is designed to block mana transmission to minimize damage, but the structure of this cloak is completely reversed. That means the outer layer enhances the efficiency of operating mana and takes more damage, while the inner layer prevents mana from leaking, reducing mana loss for the wearer. He stared at the cloak, saying to himself, "My master wouldn't make a mistake like this." After thinking for a while, Hyul happily thought, "So it's designed to be worn inside out." He smoothed the cloak out, assessing, this, even when reversed, the structure of the inner and outer layers was still the same. Hyul fell into thought again. So it's intentionally designed like this. But for what purpose, he wondered. Is this really an ancient artifact? Now I understand why father left it to rot in the vault. In another room, Mimir was sitting quietly, reading a book. Hyul walked in, calling loudly, "Mimir." The little girl looked up, her face both excited and surprised. "Oh, successor, you're here." Mimir quickly saw the item he had draped over his arm. That is, she jumped off the chair and ran over. "What? Isn't that Ray's cloak?" Mimir's eyes lit up. "Successor, you found this already. Your luck is unbelievable." Hyul nodded, "But this cloak seems a bit strange." She took the cloak, scrutinizing it, her eyes scanning every detail. "What?" Suddenly, she shouted loudly, startling Hyul. Mimir raised her hand, immediately asking, "Successor, you're still in the second circle, right, for some reason?" She brought up this topic. He was confused but still replied, That's right." Mimir nodded as if she understood. "Then, it's normal that you don't know." Seeing her beat around the bush, he asked directly, "Don't think to yourself anymore. So how do I use this?" Mimir suddenly raised a cross sign, covering her mouth, smiling awkwardly. "Sorry, successor. I'm sorry. But I can't explain anything about this cloak." She pushed the cloak back to Hyul. "I'll give it back." He was full of question marks. "What? Why?" Mimir crossed her arms, replying, "Bitainer-style magic possesses a special incantation." She paused for a moment, her gaze becoming profound. Hyul repeated her words with a confused expression. "A special incantation." Mimir helplessly held her head, yelling, "Thinking about it, I can't mention the name of that incantation." "Forget it." After calming down for a while, she continued, "Let me explain again. Bitainer-style magic has a special incantation, a magic called True Law." Hearing this term for the first time, Hyul softly muttered, "True Law." Mimir looked straight into his eyes, nodding to confirm. "That's right. Unlike the magic you are using, this is the real True Law." "What?" So the magic I'm using isn't real. Mimir put her hand up, thinking, then nodded in confirmation. Well, unfortunately, that's the accurate way to say it. About this true law, I can't reveal anything until you, successor, reach a certain level. Yahello pondered, guessing, is it some kind of restriction? Mimir quickly replied, yeah, this cloak is an artifact that exists to support true law. Yahello sighed, I feel like I've grasped some information, but I'm still confused. Then I can't explain anything about this cloak either, that's all. Seeing that Yahello had understood somewhat, her eyes narrowed happily. So cool, exactly, you understand so quickly, successor, he raised the cloak. So, what level do I need to reach to get an explanation about this cloak? Mimir tilted her head, thinking, then reached out her hand, replying, that's the 5th circle. The answer stunned Yahello. The little girl seriously added, you must master the 5th circle and overcome many trials. Beitner style, magic really starts with mastering the 5th circle first. The Mimir book glowed brightly, each page automatically opening as if activated by magic power. Yahello immediately raised his hand, creating exquisite magic circles. He softly counted, 98, 99, 100. Yahello smiled with satisfaction. Finally, I did it. Suddenly, a voice echoed in the air, congratulations. Startled, he turned around. This voice, Master, a voice full of majesty but also filled with encouragement. It must have been very hard to pass this second test. You did well. Now I will teach you how to cast the 3rd magic circle. Yahello rubbed his wrist, muttering, the 3rd magic circle. His master's voice became gentler. The 3rd level of Beitner-style magic. The 3rd infinite magic circle. Intersection. Yahello repeated blankly. The intersection circle. Outside, he closed the book, sighing in relief. His face gradually fell into contemplation. So, I've mastered the 2nd test. Now it's time to practice the intersection circle. Yahello happily picked up the books, thanking them silently. If it weren't for the cloak and the Book of Mimir, this test would have taken much longer. Back to the night before, at Mimir's well, the little girl had said, you can only use it after you've mastered the 5th circle and passed test number 5. In Beitner's techniques, true magic only appears after mastering the 5th circle. Yahello took off his cloak, laying it over his arm, his face contemplative. Well, that's it. Until I reach level 5, I should put this cloak away for now. Mimir stopped him. Wait a minute, successor, what are you saying? Why would you waste something so valuable in the vault? He looked down at the little girl. Well, what do I use it for? The inner and outer layers of the mana fabric are reversed, so I can't use it. Right, Mimir snatched the cloak, then give it to me. Before Yahello could react, she started explaining. This cloak has the ability to keep mana inside, not letting it leak out, helping you achieve a mana-saturated state. Mimir enthusiastically explained, when mana is saturated, the infinite magic circle will spin faster than usual, which means the mana transmitted through the brain will also increase, right? In other words, your brain will inherit this surplus of mana, helping you recover mentally faster, just like the fatigue accumulated in the body. Seeing that he was nodding, she gave the cloak back to him. I understand. If I wear this cloak, I can reduce my sleeping time. Right, Mimir pouted. And you said you understood, she winked. Wearing this cloak, you won't need to sleep anymore. Yahello was stunned. No need to sleep at all. Mimir replied with a confident expression. That's right, just by wearing it for about 5 hours each day. You'll maintain the best condition. She reached out her hand. Moreover, this is just a side effect. It's okay to tell the successor, because this isn't the true power of this cloak. Hearing her words, Yahello was full of excitement. I want to master level 4 magic quickly. Mimir leaned in, reminding him, but you know this only works on you, right? For others, it's a poison. Yahello smiled. Of course I know. With an item like this, the upcoming test will be easier. Time quickly passed. 2 days later, in a small room, a faint light shone through the window. Yahello, wearing the cloak, was sitting in the room. His eyes were full of questions. Yahello opened the book, wondering. I've tried so many times, but I'm still missing something. It feels like I'm about to understand the intersection circle, but Yahello intently reread the description. Intersection, the level 3 magic circle in Beitner-style magic, possesses the power to control the mana of others. To do this, it's necessary to synchronize 100% with that person's mana. The corners of his lips twitched slightly. This is the definition of the intersection circle. It can affect the mana of others. His face was filled with excitement. That sounds interesting. Actually, I wasn't expecting anything. I never thought that the second test would just be a stepping stone to practicing the intersection circle. Yahello flipped to the next page, reading softly, To obtain the level 3 magic circle, you need to resonate the resonance circle and synchronize with the surrounding mana. His face relaxed. Just keep resonating, and the level 3 magic circle will form. Yahello stood up with determination. All right, I'll definitely succeed this time. He closed his eyes, focusing on feeling every pulse of mana in the air. Altogether, abundant mana in the air, and mana that has saturated my body. Yahello's body seemed to be lost in the vast universe, as if he was building a new house. He gently raised both hands. Small specks of light, like tiny figures, floated around him, creating a house within his body. Mana is being absorbed. Yahello relaxed completely. Let's play together. Over here, I can hear the sound of mana. He reached out, feeling, it's wonderful. He took a breath, feeling a bit regretful. It's so warm. I don't want to leave at all. Ah, so refreshing. If I've reached this point, I will master it soon. Just keep resonating like this. Sounds echoed around him. Let's play a new game. What should we play? The tiny specks of light grabbed each other's hands. Dancing and singing, creating a playground. They joined hands in a circle, singing, dancing, and merging as one. Suddenly, Yahello frowned. It's too hot. Even if the mana amplification rate is only different by 1%, my body still can't absorb it. By controlling that 1%, the mana stabilized in my body. Gradually, I reduced the amplification rate to 0.01%. The mana gradually created a magic circle, silently, without anyone noticing. The next morning, when the sunlight shone into the room, Yahello woke up. He looked up, completely astonished, feeling his body light and full of energy. He exclaimed, "It's done." Unable to contain his excitement, Yahello raised his hand, trying to use the magic circle. Level 1 magic circle. Focus. Immediately, two streams of blue and red light intertwined. Rotating harmoniously, Yahello continued. Level 2 magic circle. Resonance. And now 4. His hand clenched. Yahello, his voice full of excitement, raised his hand. The third infinite magic circle. Yahello couldn't hide the joy in his eyes when he obtained this item. This is the third infinite magic circle. Disruption. This joy was too great. He really couldn't believe that he had finally completed the third magic circle, the disruption circle. Although he had succeeded, he wouldn't allow himself to be complacent and stop. He reminded himself, I need to get stronger as quickly as possible to reach the level of a 5 circle master. In the vast secluded forest, when the gentle sunlight shone through the trees, Yahello was relaxing alone on a large branch, letting the birds perch on him. His eyes were closed slightly, but his mind was still thinking about the survival combat test. To be more specific, it was a large-scale test in a vast training area, on a mountain in Gangneung province. The duration of the test was 32 hours. All students were equipped with a special artifact, which was the ring on Yahello's hand. Its rules weren't too complicated. A simple test where you just needed to survive as long as possible in a shrinking area for 32 hours. Yahello, after understanding the criteria of the test, couldn't hold back any longer and wanted to act immediately. Okay, it's time to move. There was one point that he and other students needed to be mindful of. If there was a difference, it was that you not only had to survive the attacks of monsters, but you also had to deal with other students, and of course, survive while doing evaluations. He gently nudged the birds off of him. As soon as the birds flew away, he saw Guayak attacking him from behind, throwing a fireball at him. Sneaking up behind me. Die, Shin Yahello. He was agile, easily dodging it. Yahello landed safely, unharmed. Guayak had no intention of letting him go. He thought his attack from above would give him an advantage, so he couldn't help but smile arrogantly. Good at dodging, huh? But I've got your rhythm now. On the opposite side, Yahello tightened his fist, lunging straight toward Guayak. Guayak knows how to play it, he thought. He had used a barrier to block the punch. Idiot! What can you do with a fist? Ignoring his provocation, his eyes focused on one point. In the next second, he immediately tried out disruption, a technique he had just acquired. Launching a kick towards his barrier, cracks quickly appeared. At this moment, Guayak started to panic. What? His barrier shattered like that? His body also couldn't withstand the impact and fell straight to the ground. Guayak really couldn't believe it. His barrier had lost to something like an earth tremor. Yahello stood high above, looking at him with a grimace while he lay on the ground below, coldly saying, Idiot, what's so glorious about a sneak attack? He simply felt that his actions were too stupid, and he was also yelling during the attack, ignoring him. What he was concerned about now was, is this the power of disruption? Recalling a few minutes earlier, this power had weakened the core of the 2-circle barrier magic and pierced through it with a 1-circle earth tremor, thus defeating Guayak. He still had no intention of waking up. The announcement from the organizers was still coming out steadily. Student Kang Guak has been eliminated. Hyul turned away decisively, thinking, because he was careless and unguarded, it worked perfectly naturally. Gyak's elimination also meant that Shin Hyul received 10 points. This score was barely enough to satisfy him. A good start, huh? The sky was still as blue as ever that day. Hyul was leisurely walking, earning points. While also thinking about the newly acquired technique, I think I've grasped disruption. At this rate, disruption can be effective, not just against 2-circle magic, but also 3-circle magic. At this moment, something suddenly flew past him from behind. Hyul quickly noticed it, frowning as he turned around to see what it was. Then he saw a loud explosion, and a red flame instantly enveloped an area. This is a fireball. Hyul's expression gradually became worried as he realized what it was. In front of him, a pack of blood-clawed wolves were slowly advancing. And more importantly, they were also appearing behind him. That meant that he was surrounded. Looking at the current situation, Hyul determined. It seems they were attracted by the sound of the previous fight, facing the pack of wolves. He still remained calm, even having time to stretch his limbs. Well, if they were normal students, they'd be complaining about having to fight constantly. He was different from them, but for me, who needs to dominate the top of the leaderboard in an overwhelming way? I am very grateful for this situation. At the moment the alpha wolf howled loudly, signaling its pack to charge at him. He was already waiting for them, immediately activating his disruption power. Come on, you mangy dogs. But this fight of Hyul was recorded in detail. The instructors, sitting in front of a large screen, watching the students' tests, couldn't help but be impressed by a few names: Adela, Starett, Ji Sung Chan. A satisfied smile gradually appeared on their faces. Kim Kang-soo, Ma Hee-hak. These students are truly outstanding. With what these students had shown, they could determine that, if everything continued like this until the end, they would easily get into the top 10. But to survive until the end is very difficult. A female instructor softly turned to her colleagues. By the way, it seems like there's no one left. They no longer doubted Shin Hyul's skills, just looking at how he was taking down each wolf one by one. It was obvious. Homeroom teacher Go Chang-soo, who had a calm expression, was watching him through the screen. After a moment, he smiled proudly, replying, "Yes, that's right." The other instructors also couldn't hide their excitement when mentioning him. He clearly doesn't look like someone who could be deemed as not having the ability to compete and be eliminated. Eliminated, he's superior, ranking first in all the training sessions before. And even now, he's leading with a large point gap. The difference between him and the person in second place is too big. Not stopping there, what's even more amazing is how he knows the habits of blood-clawed wolves, and intentionally didn't kill it until it called the whole pack. That's truly extraordinary. When a blood-clawed wolf howls, others will charge even if they are 5 kilometers away, using that habit to gather points to destroy. They truly saw potential in him, hoping that Hyul would be the factor to create a breakthrough. At this rate, we can hope for a win for the Olympiad. Returning to the forest where the test was taking place, Hyul, after fighting the pack of wolves for a while, was now a bit tired. With this many, but the result was very satisfactory. The pack of wolves had been completely eliminated by him. I got about 60 points. Huh? Before he could celebrate, suddenly his body unexpectedly fell down with no strength. Huh? He couldn't help but feel confused. What is this? An earthquake? No, that can't be. The ground is moving. The deeper he fell, the more he frowned as he saw what was hidden underneath. What is this? And the falling speed was very fast. A figure as big as an elephant, with emeralds on its back. Hyul had now recognized that the thing was an emerald turtle. The previous worry had been replaced with a smile full of excitement. Such a rare monster. Why is it here? As he got closer, he could see its features clearly. A body as large as an elephant, with an emerald green shell. Hyul quickly recognized that it was an emerald turtle. His eyes were filled with excitement. Why is such a rare monster appearing here? Hyul quickly landed at its feet. He couldn't help but be impressed. This was the first time he had seen one with his own eyes. The emerald turtle, upon seeing him, immediately stuck out its long tongue. Seeing that, he understood. Well, let's fight. At this time, at Obelisk Academy, in the evaluation tower of the outdoor training ground, this scene was quickly captured and shown live to the instructors watching. Shin Hyul and the emerald turtle, the male instructor of course, wasn't unfamiliar with the emerald turtle, saying in a low voice. Initially, it was to escape from danger, and the purpose of this was to expand the available options, such as students cooperating with each other. It's a rare monster brought to the main training ground. Hearing this, the female instructor was a bit worried for him. No matter how talented Shin Hyul is, there's no way he can face that thing alone. To explain its characteristics further, the Emerald Turtle, an ancient reptilian turtle monster equivalent to Class 4 of Grade C. Is characterized by a strong invulnerable defense. It's an enemy of mages. The Emerald Turtle, with its dazzling body, stepped toward Yahello to attack. Its footstep caused the ground to sink in a bit. Fortunately, he had managed to dodge in time before it struck. Looking at its destructive power, Yahello could guess that, if he captured this monster, he would receive a large amount of elimination points, but before he could smile for too long. His eyes showed worry when he saw it launching a second attack. Seeing that, Yahello quickly used a barrier, creating a thick defensive wall, but it seemed that the barrier was nothing compared to the destructive power of the Emerald Turtle. In an instant, it was able to shatter it, causing him to be thrown backward. The instructors in the observation room were also on edge, avoiding the attack by using the barrier as a stepping stone, but the barrier wasn't strong enough. The Emerald Turtle is not an easy opponent even for a level 6 mage. Yahello immediately responded with a technique, Fire Mountain. A large fire enveloped the Emerald Turtle's huge body. Looking at the thick black smoke, he was curious to know if it would have any effect, but things weren't as easy as he thought. It was completely unharmed. Its endurance is too terrifying, impossible. Before it could catch up, he should run and hide first. Indeed, it's not easy to play with. Even a level 5 mage can't defeat this monster on their own. Yahello, while running quickly ahead, was researching it. He guessed, it must be because it has mana within it. So it's faster than I expected. As soon as that thought appeared, Yahello also realized something. Wait, it has mana. As soon as he realized that, a smug smile reappeared on his lips. Yahello didn't choose to flee anymore and turned back to face it. I think I have something to try. Without thinking much, he immediately amplified the power in his legs, transmitting a large amount of spirit power. As soon as he was done, the Emerald Turtle attacked. He had to run first, powerful force that could fell a huge tree with just one blow. If he was hit, just once, even a bone wouldn't recover. Yahello didn't dare imagine that terrible scene. Its attack speed was getting faster and more dangerous, forcing him to reconsider. If he kept running like this, he wouldn't be able to win. He had to fight back again. After thinking it over carefully, he immediately braked, facing it, once again, using a barrier. Like before, resisting wasn't easy. What is this power? At this time Yahello had to admit that he had underestimated it. I can't even block this attack, and it's too late to flee. There's only one way. Resonance. Yahello's eyes were more determined than ever, reminding himself that this was a head-on confrontation. Through his previous fights with it, he had noticed that, right after an attack, it wouldn't be able to move until it regained its strength, when the time was ripe. It was the time he needed to make a decisive move. Now, wind. Yahello's speed had been increased. His power was also quickly gathering at one point on his body. The current moment made him recall the past. I remember reading a picture book when I was young. In the book, it said, a dual attack of the Emerald Turtle creates a lot of pressure on its joints. Right now, after it attacked, when it wouldn't be able to move until its joints regained their strength, it was the perfect moment. This time I will choose to attack from above. Maybe this is a chance for me. Ice Spear. As soon as Yahello released this move, it widened the eyes of the instructors on the other side. The screen now showed his attack on the Emerald Turtle in full. Back on his side, Yahello, by activating Disruption, had managed to injure the Emerald Turtle. In the next second, it couldn't hold on any longer and fell straight down. Yahello, although he had used a lot of strength, had finally won. The score on the ring on his hand immediately jumped up. An announcement was then made that Shin had received 1,000 points, so his hard work had paid off. Great. The sky was still as blue as ever, not only in the instructor's observation room, but also at the manor of the Magic family. Yahello's performance had also been noted by his father. A satisfied smile gradually appeared on his face when he saw him win. His voice was filled with pride. Even though the Emerald Turtle was weak to the ice element, I still don't understand how he did it using just level 3 magic. Do you know? Sakyan, on the side, with a blank face, replied in a low voice, I'm sorry. I don't know either, but looking at what had just happened, he guessed, it seems so. And of course, there will also be resistance. Food sources are very important in survival tests. He has very good judgment. Shin and Hyuk, hearing this, nodded, replying, I didn't raise him to be so weak. Regarding this, he acknowledged, indeed, that's right. Looking at Yahello, who was happily carrying his loot, Sakyan took the initiative to say to him, Master, may I ask something? What is it? Hyuk asked curiously. His question was, why is Mr. Yahello acting so boldly? Clearly, if you think about the monitoring actions of Mr. Jihan and Ms. Sia, you would realize that those actions are very harmful. He didn't have the same thought as him, he only felt that those were all deliberate actions. He still didn't quite understand what he meant. Yes, Inhyuk now slowly explained to him. In the past, when magic was still limited, Hyul was naturally eliminated from the family's competition, and as a result, his position in the family recently has been very pitiful. After saying that, his eyes immediately became extremely stern, but it's different now. His conversation with him earlier had made him realize this. Hyul has, I don't know how, but he has gained tremendous power, and he has also improved significantly in the field of magic. Not only that, in the 2 months before the Olympics, he had requested protection from harassment from his siblings. To show himself in the most outstanding way possible, to do something extraordinary if possible, Inhyuk's words made Sakhyun extremely surprised. His steady voice continued to ring out. He had planned to draw the world's attention and elevate his position in the family, building his power as quickly as possible. Looking at his expression, he seemed very proud of Hyul, and after those 2 months of protection, he must be confident that the monitoring of Jihan and Sia is no longer a problem. Hyul, on this side, was greatly enjoying a delicious meal made from the meat of the emerald turtle. Add a little seasoning. Right, he's a decisive person.